Aurora turned up in winning form on day 2, with Hardeki's return to Pro League being a huge splash, dropping 15 kills, tying for kill leader with his fragger Oirein, as Aurora clears second place by 22 points. Back-to-back wins in rounds 2 and 3 pushed them to the top of the leaderboards despite some medium games later in the day. Naski's team 07 improved on their day 1 finish of 4th with a 3rd place in day 2, picking up where Aurora left off. Two back-to-back in rounds 5 and 6 to finish the day strong. At the start of the season, there were concerns about how Nasky would handle being without his longtime duo Serdell.
何回もリロードしないとブラウザは表示されないっていうバグがなんかしにいけられる。何なんだろうね。クロームのバグかな。センサーがあるとは言われます。でしょ。
But their early kills and placement proved enough to keep them in first place at the end of the day. Aurora put together 2 more wins and got a 2nd place finish in the last game of the day. Despite a fairly low kill score on day 3, their solid performance got them 2nd. At the end of the round robin, Aurora has a comfortable space at the top, with UAIM barely hanging on to 2nd by a point. There's a tie at the number 3 spot with 07 and OAH both on 34 points. EMEA is shaping up to be a close-fought region, with a lot of teams having the ability to jump up the leaderboard with just a good performance in the weeks to come. Alliance make up for the rough first 2 days with a 9-kill win in the final game of day 3, pushing them up to 12th in the standings. And we've got some roster shifts as Kashera's team Vamo Kiera parts ways with their South American import kings and pick up Cash's old duo post-kill. Will the change be enough to propel them up from their current spot in 16th? Only time will tell. Pro League is back this weekend as we kick off the 2nd round robin with APAC South back in action on February 3rd. Make sure you join us for all the action on broadcast and follow us on socials for all the news and updates as they happen.
おはにだ。おはにだ。始まった。おー。チャンピオン隠してたね、今。TSM のところ。
Welcome back to year 4 of ALGS Split 1 Day 4 and happy
誰だ
anniversary to Apex Legends. I am so excited to
昔からいたっけ
last week we saw the end of the first round robin run. So we're going back around and we're going to see teams A and B go back at it again. And today I am joined by Onset. Hello.
I don't think I'd officially be knighted, but it's great to do it on broadcast in front of everyone else. So thank you very much for that. Great to be here. Of course, North America is really turning our focus of attention now. EMEA was great a little bit earlier, but like I mentioned, we're a third of the way through the season now, which is crazy to say out loud. It means that points are at a premium and there's no more room for mistakes.
Yeah, if I had the Wraith heirloom out right now, I'm packing for a move. I totally would have knighted you with that, but you know, that's fine. And of course, joining us is the wonderful Gaskin. Hello.
Hello, I thought you would knight people with the Octane heirloom, because I've heard your preference and you have made it clear to me, but it's okay. We know the Wraith heirloom's better. I'm glad you agree. Very excited for North America, and you know, I can't wait to see what these teams are going to do. It's quite tight at the top between some of the biggest and best teams, but I'm sure they're ready to put on a show.
You are so lucky that you live a few states away, all right? Like, you're lucky that you're quite a few distance away from me, because we would fight. Right. Anyways, so Octane's heirloom is the best, but anyways, I'm very excited for NA today. We obviously have a lot of teams playing that we have already seen, and I know that the chat is extremely excited for, but we do have to talk about some team announcements that did drop. So and obviously leading into match day number 4. Now, first up, we do have Space Station Gaming saying they couldn't keep us away forever, and Onset, I mean, look at the new roster, and I'm really excited.
Hey, look,
Space Station に入ったと3人。一番下がコーチだね。
and I'm very excited that they've picked up this roster. I actually got an official statement from SSG.
早起きしたら見に行きます。こんにちは。
They said, I think it's hilarious you kids talk trash
編
about
集優しい。
SSG. You wouldn't say that to them at LAN. They're jacked. Not only that, but they wear the freshest clothes. They eat the chillest restaurant and hang out with the hottest dudes. So that's a statement from Space Station Gaming themselves on this roster. And I think they're going to be a lot of fun. We know that former PLP, there's a lot of talent here, and the fact they're under the Space Station Gaming banner is wonderful to see.
Yes, what a great copy pasta. I'm so excited for that. All right, next up we do have Gaming Gladiators, and they will be joining the Apex Games for this week's matches. They will still be known as flat, just as a clarification. But starting with next week's matches, Gaming Gladiators will be official. So, Gaskin, how do you feel about this announcement?
Yeah, very excited for Game Gladiators to be back in the scene. I mean, they had a team in EMEA for a while, a North American team as well. I mean, I think that's fantastic to see this sort of organization to branch out into different regions, and I think these guys are going to kill it. They say see you at the Coliseum, so all right, we'll see you there.
Yeah, I love that statement so much. That's so cool. And yes, here is the PLP roster becoming SSG. So very excited for that. And we all know Onset is a huge fan of SSG. So congratulations to him for, you know, all of his success with SSG, because it was all his doing, right? Obviously.
It was not. just to clear that up.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a look at the overall standings. Now, we did see 2 series already with these teams, so we get to look at the overall standings here. And of course, Arc Zero is at first with 43 points, but LG is not far off in second place with 41, Gaskin.
Yeah, and this is where the bonus points that were added to the format could come into effect, right? Because if you are winning groups, then you are going to be very close to people. Dark Zero, they were able to get victory. LG were able to get a victory. TSM not far behind as well. If you can have a very dominant match week where you do find bonus points, then it is really going to elevate you through. And now I see the Elevate 6th, and I feel silly for saying Elevate, but there's so many top tier rosters here in North America, and this is how it looks right now, but I guarantee it's going to look very different when we come around once more.
Yeah, and then of course on our second page Onset, we do see Oblivion and Optic Gaming and Meat Lovers all lined up here in 11th to 20th place.
We do indeed, and I think we have to always
Day5 って土曜日だっけ?
we always talk about the top as well.
見てこよう。
There's a couple of teams, Oxygen Esports, I think very surprising to see them down there. They're going to make a change ahead of today with where they're dropping. We'll get into that a little bit later. FaZe had a good game day 1, but game day 2 was not too great. And Optic Gaming in the middle as well, still looking for a little bit of form. We know they've been hit by the beacon changes a little bit themselves with their,
2月10日だ。土曜日だね。
So a lot to keep an eye on here, and excuse me, over at Down Beast, I will correct myself there. But
エルキー29さん、サウスで29ヶ月目最高おどっすこんばんはこんにちは。12試合来るっていうやってみたら分かるよ。明らかに時間やばいじゃん。おはようございます。1日12試合やってみたら分かるよ。競技神話や。ランクの12試合と分けがちやから。ランクの12試合やからあれはもう脳死でやれるからな。何も考えなくていいからな。突っ込んで敵倒すか死ぬかしてないいからな。何も考えなくていいランクは。突っ込んでないんすよ。
Yeah, and speaking of all of these questions being answered now, we're going to get our questions answered about these teams, Group A and B, showing up today. I am really excited to see Zero and TSM.
セブン、カルトセブンのセブンだよ。
Because day 1 we did see it was kind of their game, but
さあ今日は TSM ね。あとは強いとこいる LG、オキシジン、オプティック、フェイス、ダークゼロ、ダークゼロ TSM、また2強来た。
Yeah, I was one of those people. I honestly thought LG was going to be a little bit slower in finding their footing.
本竹さん、320! 最高あ、好きです、あざっす、こんばんは。はい、おはまる、こんばんは。こんばんは、こんにちは。まだ朝だよ。眠。終わったら寝よう。終わったら動画編集して寝るわ。
And it's not that day 1 was bad by any means. It was not. So LG is made up by Funk, Sweet, and Slayer. And they're second place overall standings, right? And you can see that they're pretty even in Storm Point and World's Edge with their rate of success. So they're feeling pretty confident. We see just how aggressive they can be. But they're also incredibly smart about which fights they do decide to take, because again, like we keep saying, Apex is all about capitalizing off of your enemy's mistakes, and they are not wanting to make any mistakes. So going into that, let's talk about complexity on set.
Yeah, Kimchi, Monsoon, and Lou, what a game day they had in their second one. 21 points they managed to put up. It was only 8 points in the first week, but Monsoon started picking up a Sentinel and certainly teaching some people some severe lessons with that weapon in that second game day. And I'm interested to see how they get on today. I did see that Kimchi may be hoping some internet comes back because there was a storm in the area or something, but hopefully they can play as that full roster. World's Edge has been their more successful, map in comparison to Storm Point, but still a good amount of points being picked up on both.
From a World's Edge team to a Storm Point team, we've got Drop-In Gaming, who might not have had the best of times in A and B last time we saw them around, but I mean, Stunny, Crook, and Jay are an incredible squad who in day 2, or match 2, should I say, really started to find their form and find their footing. I think they are a genuine threat to everyone in this lobby who have to be concerned if they end up going up in a 3v3 against them.
And we just got word from our producers that Complexity will be taking in Reptar as a sub for match 1 until Kimchi gets his internet sorted out, which we're actually in kind of the same area. So the storm's hitting us pretty hard, but you know what? It almost feels like we're in Storm Point, right? It's great. It's setting the theme. So very excited about that. I know that was bad. I'm sorry. So we talked about teams that are performing way better than we expected. So let's go ahead and talk about teams performing at where exactly we thought, which is not a bad thing at all. It just means that we know what to expect. So before we go into that, let's go ahead and listen to Stunny talk about his team and their new strategies.
Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Stunny. I'm a pro player for Drop-In Gaming. Our current roster consists of Karma, also known as Jayon, Crook, Assault, and our coach Kapreem. So about a year ago, I was with a different roster with Drop-In Gaming. I wasn't the happiest with that roster, so I ended up letting go of 2 of those players, and Crook and Oreos ended up coming up. Picked both of them up, and eventually Sentinels took Oreos from us, so we emergency replaced him with Karma. No, we actually won't be changing anything this time around, but we're luckily not double contested on both maps, so that's very nice. So we will be doing a lot better now that we can actually play the game. Yeah, so we noticed that we weren't leaving from our POI as quickly as we'd like to. So in this weekend, we will definitely be changing that. We'll be landing, looting, and rotating a lot faster than we have been recently.
Yeah, I mean, Gaskin not being contested on either maps is a huge boon to them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think every team at this point is just hoping no one is going to be contesting them, because we've seen how much it can harm and hurt those teams. So they're going to try and loot a little bit faster, get out of their POI a little bit faster. They had success in match day number 2, so we'll see if that carries on here until their 3rd attempt.
Absolutely. And as promised, we are going to be talking about those teams that are performing exactly where we expected. So I have to start by talking about TSM. And I know, Stella, you talked about TSM last week. And I will continue to talk about TSM because they are a team that are in this for the long haul. So TSM with Verhulst, Imperial Hal, and Reps, they are TSM!
TSM!
Day 1 was really a TSM and Dark Zero battle, and TSM did win 2 matches, but they did end up coming into second place with 16 points under Dark Zero. So this is their chance to take first place back from Dark Zero and kind of hand it back to them. And I do remember TSM getting the short end of the stick last match that we saw them play, but overall TSM has been very consistent, and I fully expect them to bounce back today on set.
Yeah, I picked Elevate Gaming as business as usual, and it might seem like why aren't you talking about Luminosity? You know, LG are up there, and I understand why. It was very difficult to decide between the two, but the reason I've gone with Elevate is because I felt coming into this season of Pro League that they were going to be one of those teams who are super consistent from week to week, and they've proved that so far. Look at their Storm Point World's Edge split. It's pretty much the same. There's only 5 points difference between the two. They've always put themselves in good places. Their team fighting and their synergy seems to be there as well. And I've been really impressed with some of their rotates they're making and some of the difficult paths that they're having to take on some far zones and how they're managing to navigate that. So shout out to Zach Major on some of the calls that he's making, but his 2 teammates backing him up all along the way with their fragging ability. I think Elevate have looked really strong.
I like that you picked Elevate because, you know, the same percentages as Dark Zero, but Dark Zero are doing it with far more points. Zero Sykes and Jem Burton, I mean, I was wondering how Sykes would be on this roster. Would he fit in? Would he deal with the pressure? Absolutely. Listens so well to instruction that's coming from the IGL. Will always be either initiating the fight or joining the fight at the right time. And I love the addition of Sykes, and I really do think this Dark Zero roster is just going to carry on going from strength to strength here, Stella. And they are #1 team at the moment in North America.
I know, and they're good for it. I am so excited to see the performances that all of these teams give us today. And I do want to talk about other teams that we might want to kind of boost up, and we want to see them do better, right? Because we're obviously going into our next round of round robin. So I want to talk about DNO Gaming, Dudes Night Out. They have a solid roster with 2 ex-Sentinel players, but they were really struggling with points in survival past 10th placed in most matches. So you can see on Storm Point they're a little bit stronger with 67% of their points. 33% on World's Edge. You want to be strong on this map. That is a classic to Apex. They did win their first game on day 2, but day 1 they only got 13 points. So it's possible they're warming up, and the jump in points is a sign they're probably more prepared the second run. But it's really hard to say when the 2 performances we've seen have been a little bit lacking. But let's talk about Oxygen Esports.
Let's talk about Oxygen Esports, because the best has to come for them, because they have been lackluster by their own standards, and they've made a change, and it's not in the lineup, it's in the POI they're going to be dropping at. They were dropping over at Command Center. They have swapped. It's a house swap. It's a POI swap with the team who are at their old home of Barometer. So Oxygen Esports will be back to Barometer. They know those rotate so well on Storm Point, and I think it's going to be a big contributing factor to them having a little bit more success than what we've seen from them so far.
And then Optic Gaming, they have found more success on Storm Point, even with Down Beast maybe not finding as many ring consoles as they would have liked, as Onset was mentioning earlier. But I kind of was expecting more from Optic. They're such an insane team, insane fighting team as well, especially with the likes of Skittlecakes, who I always say is one of the scariest players to go up against. I want to see more from Optic. I know what they're capable of. We saw what they did at LAN. We saw what they did at the World Championships, and I think they just need to try and find that form again. But it's just finding their footing in this meta, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Apex is an ever-changing game, so it's always good to stay on top of knowing exactly what your team needs to keep up with the changing environment. So with that, I'm going to let y'all take over the cast for match #1. I am so excited to see these teams go up against each other.
Thank you very much, Stella. I'm destroying stuff on my desk as we go into game #1 because I've got the jitters, Dan, because I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit excited. You know how it is. But game 1 is just around the corner, everyone. And coming into today, I think a lot of expectation and eyes, understandably, from the community is going to be on that top 3, right? You've got TSM, you've got Dark Zero, all in this lobby, and it is extremely tight at the top. I think it's an opportunity for one of those teams to step forward and say, hey, we are the front runners today. We have an opportunity here to really establish ourselves as that #1.
Yeah, it's Hal, Sweet, and Zero again, but at the same time, you've got to be looking at who's alongside them and who's actually doing some of that dirty work, even though we can always praise the IGLs. It's a massive team game. It's going to be a massive contribution from everyone else who's going to be a part of it, whether it's the damage they're dealing, whether it's the positioning for support, whether it's just playing a legend that can actually give you a little bit of something in the early game or the late game. So many different strategies that are starting to be employed by teams now, and are we going to see a few changes here in North America? EMEA certainly provided with a couple of changes here or there, and I think North America are usually the more safe of the 2 regions, I would say, and we'll have to see whether they carry on. I'm expecting a lot of Horizons, for example, on Storm Point.
I think we'll see a little bit more Watson today. There's been a little bit of adjustment to that interception pylon, of course, healing through walls, and you know, the enemy team who are on the outside of your building aren't going to be sitting there going, hey, this is like a warm campfire to sit around. This is recharging our shields and giving us a little bit of extra. So we might see a little bit more Watson as we head towards our map schedule. This is how things are going to work today, starting off with 3 games on Storm Point before we head over to World's Edge.
And you were talking about drops, you were talking about people moving, and I was just looking at where are the contests going to be. And we might be okay. I mean, there's a couple of teams that could contest. Pretty clear from what I've seen, but we'll have to see when we get into it. I mean, there was one that happened at Fight が The Wall か。フェイズとテンプルゲーミングだっけ？なんかそんな感じだった気がする。 B for finding everyone finding a home and not having too many contests going down.
In before Dark Zero drop lightning rod.
シーズン25ホライゾン。まああれが本当かどうか知らないけどね。本当だったらマジ強いね。ホライゾン優遇。優遇だね、あれは完全に。
Towards the wall, like you say at the start of this game, and also I think just to note on complexity, I feel a bit like terrible in some ways that Kimchi has unfortunately had the internet issue, and he's hopefully going to be back a little bit later on. But what a pickup, Reptar coming in as their substitute player. That's why you've got a sub with some real.
キャラピックな。レブランチ。アナヤいるアナヤ。アルブラレディだって。やるね。え？お、レブラン2いんだけど。なめてんな。なめとるなこれな。ファイター。なんだこれ。どうしたんだお前ら。アナヤファン来た。アナヤ君好きになっちまったか。あのプレー見て。いや。
Various different scenarios, and of course, being a support legend too, can get those banners a little bit later and craft them. But we're out of the dropship. We're into
中国選手インペルハルですね。おい。
And we'll have to see whether we do get any contests potentially over at the
なんでファイトアルブラファイトだ。やれ。アルブラキーマーレイマー。アイテムレベルあ、なるほどね。初動ファイト用かこれ。初動ファイト用かよ。あ、終わったアルブラマジで。お、逃げれない。あーお。なんでだよ。レブラントで初動ファイト用に入れるんだね。ブラハじゃなくて。シューズでもいいと思うんだけどな。あー、やばいね。そう。あー、レブラー俺たちのアルブラが負けたスナイプスナイプズラフロイスナイプラウンあと1キルだよおー激ビリな一発だ終了だやつあ死んだなんだこれレブラント初動ファイトにレブラントなんだね海外って裏腹な気すんだけどな出た右下まあここら辺取りたいっすねここら辺山上あとここら辺とかかなここはね外れるから微妙だねまあね、なるべく右下っすね。こここもるでもいいし。SSG 有利だね、これね。COL! COL! 早起き、朝一、ものすごく助かります。だろ助けてんね、みんなのこと、俺は。全然出てねえけど。ホライゾン 20% なんだけど、全然いねえんだけど。消えた。このゲームバンが 100% カタリスト 85% コンデット 55% ホライゾン消えたおいホライゾンこんだけ消えると弱体が入んねえじゃねえかよ困るんだけど普通にでもランクでは大暴れしてんだよなそろそろなんかあー DIG! DIG! やばいやばい負ける俺COL まずいねアクスタンしかしこれ出るわけにいかないね出たらめったちされるからあと挟まれる側ってこれ COL 側だからねアンチ上から下に向かってくるから敵がだこれはやばいな COL ですねさあスモークでちまちま削る同居したら不利な COL だねこれね行くしかないな行かないのかなドロッピングゲーミングかドロッピングゲーミングおいおいおいおいおいおいおいおいおいおい DIG 行けよ行かないのこれビビってんなお前らスクリームだったら言ってるだろ あ、弱気だね、これ。あ、ちまちま削る作戦だ。スクリームだったら行ってんのに大会だと行かないのか？そんなんでいいのか？絶対ウキウキしながら行くっしょ、いつもだったら。俺にはわかるよ。ビビってるな。俺は挟まれたら、挟まれるのは C オールなんで、これ。やばいよ、これ。時間の問題ですね、これ。仕事行ってきまいたしゅ。いや。ホライゾン弱体化入れられないようにしようと落とされてますね、これ完全に。お久しぶり。おはようございます。いやー。
that rotates appropriately.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a reason why Dark Zero are already this far across the map.
Dark Zero.
They had the ring console.
TSM! TSM!
Quickly, just checking in on TSM's journey.
どこ飛ぶのこれ？教えてくんね。TSM どこ飛ぶの？地下もおるのかな？岩か。まあ結局そこっすよね。結局ここなんだよな。はい、TSM 勝ちましたと。TSM 勝ちましたと。ここは孤立した場所だからね、まあファイトだけちゃんとしっかり勝ち取れば勝ちです。動きやすいし。風船もあるね。おっと、エレベーター？でけめに2丁はいいんだけど。でけめに2丁はいいんだけど。終わった？は見えてる見えてるな、今の。おいおいおいおい、もしかして、見えてます今の。ディクトさん、サブスク25ヶ月目。最高！グッモーニングやーだっす。さあ、エレベーター、これカオテックマッチに絡めてるどこだ？カオテックマッチのチームって。ネイティブゲーミング違うか。
risky, but at the same time, it could pay off here if you are able to get past all of the commotion. And I like going low, because going low, you can avoid a lot of the sight lines that are happening above you. And as long as you're all working together, as long as you have a plan of action of where you want to end up, then you should be fine. And it looks like they are going to be rewarded with it. And they have a building to work with. They have some safe space, some safe haven. And they weren't griefed too much as they tried to make that rotation. Here's the overhead, here's the map. As we can see, only a few teams not within that circle. FaZe, Eternal, Creed.
Oh my god!
Late movers, but
SSG!
Pretty much hunkered down, found somewhere to live. But we're going far
いや、D のも怖いけどね、これ。アンチエからの突撃。ダークゼロももう入りに来てるね。
They do have the mountain to their back, so they can certainly work with this as long as they can hold that choke.
Yeah, TSM in a really good spot. Just have to, like you mentioned, watch out for any late rotates coming in from the north. You've got Eternal who might think about moving that way. You've got FaZe as well. But again, if you're one of those teams rotating from the north through one of those choke points, you know it's going to be a risky move to make. So TSM in a great spot. Dark Zero also watching the south side of this zone. They're going to be careful because Oxygen Esports are coming around that corner right now, and they're a team with a lot to prove this week.
Yeah, there's a few teams that really have to prove themselves, and maybe it's getting to that point where we've seen enough.
エターナル EC 結構ここらこのチーム打ち合いずだよね。確か突撃までだった気する結構。カーターパッドかな。
Well, Cream have been eliminated, so that's our third team to fall out of the lobby at the moment. 17 squads remaining as we
パッドやつどうだったっけな。なんか出た気する。データが。
TSM are going to have to be very aware of them moving in behind them. Elsewhere, you can see DNO playing on the cannon at the moment. SSG have moved a little bit more south from the top of that wall that we saw them on a minute ago, and OXG just creeping up. You can see they've taken the height over them at the moment, and this is going to be a little bit of a poke battle between the two teams.
Yeah, definitely a poke battle right now. Whether it will actually end in anything will remain to be seen. There's a few teams who are in good spots that
D の意外といいと思ってんな。アンチが入ってきたね。SSD がどこ行ったんだろう。ああ、そこに引いたんか。まだ同居してんだけど、こっちまっちも削られてんじゃん、どうせスモークで。やべえクルークがめっちゃなんか嫌がらせしてるわ、スモークで。そう、1個は絶対残してるね。念のため。これ、塩色やばいんじゃない？まあ、やばいの分かってんだけど。ちまちま削るの、えぐいね。スモーキングいじめ。スモーク食らわない人いるね。おっとフェーズださあ、これ左回りするんじゃないか、フェーズは。さあ、左回りで ESML かな。だから結構これパンダーズの位置はいいね。まあ一応展開してるけども、撃たれる結構。落としきれた、でかい。落とせ落とせさあ大丈夫、遮蔽が強い、ここ。さあ、パンダーズがカバーしながら前へ進ませれば余裕だね。さあ、ただスナイプがちょっと一人なんで、攻めづらい。さあ、3人固まってる。これは別に下がれいい。さあ、あとゼラトリッキーの位置が、どうなるか。ただこれ、ベラハラスかね、位置バレちゃうんやだね。さあ、バレた。あ、固まってる、これは。まあ、フェーズ、さあ、純正の打ち合いになった、これは。カバー入ってない。カバー入れてない。おっとバックバックバックバック今明らかに一人で出たからな。あれがね、くっついてたらね、落とせるんだよね、やっぱ。ゼラトリッキこれ回復ないからやばいな。肉ないから終わる。スナイプちょ、VC 聞くか。おうさあ、ワンチャン入ってるね、ここ。いいね。スキャンスキャンスキャニング一旦角。さあ、降りたわ。これはもう余裕だね。スリーボーイチオルついになんかファイトしてる。コミュニケーションあ、DIG 死んだ。ダークゼロ取り来た。塩で突っ込んできたんかな、俺。さあ、カタリスだった。さあ、カタリスだった。あー、違うね。向こう、あ、違うな。箱あるからどうなんだろう。向こうも漁ってるから突っ込んだっぽいな。DIG が突っ込んだっぽいね。で、一人こっちにデスバルが多分引いてきた時にやられちゃったっぽいな。ダークゼロに。さあ、ダークゼロはこれ同居を嫌う。うん。まあ、あくまでちょっとキル拾いに来た感じかな。なるほど。もたもたしてたからかな。わかんない。どういう動きしてるんだろうね。まあ、突いたと思うんだけどね、多分。TSL!TSL!EC! カーターダウン。カーター、カッキルです。さあ、TSL のポジションは岩ポジ。右切れたら最強ポジっすね。上飛んどるよー。なんだここ Wi-Fi いる Wi-Fi Wi-Fi いるよ。エレベーターはどうなのこれ。エレベーターかわかんないけど、エレベーターだよな。フェーズ全滅。さあ、救急。意外と使用率高い救急。キル率も結構高いんだよね。ネイティブゲーミング言うてこれ近いな、アンチ。コンジェルちゃんと赤い数では入れる。で、グレ来たらやばいな。 あ、やばいマンバ大丈夫これ、割と抑えれる。抑えれるよ。全然抑えれるよ、これ。あー、これ無理。終わった。後ろ来たの、無理っすね。これ、どんまいっすね。そうだ、エレベーターカバーしてくれてる。アザスカバー。出たーウィングマン出すぎじゃねえウィングマン。ずるいですー無理だよ、女の。そういうゲームだよな、このゲームは。ウィングマンが世界を制す。つかもういけ。行かないと、そういうの。早く。レッツゴー。行ったらいい、そんな。あ、お前、出た。行っちゃダメって言っただろ、お前。別パいるだろ。何考えてんだよ、車線管理しろ。オプティック。おっと、これオプティック来たせいで蘇生できるぞ。蘇生できる。蘇生しろ。エレベーターやべえ。生きてる。なんか死んねえけど。チャンスさあ、エレベーターが先死んだ。あそこ行くからだよな。何考えてんだから。サイネイティブ、待って、ホライゾンじゃなくてなんだっけ。赤羽入れてない。あ、リピーターは、かっきりしたんだけど、マジあの状況で。ダークゼロだって、リピーター。ピータ。スキトルケークス。さあ TSM どこ行った？地下潜りかな。地下潜りか真下にいると思うんだよな。インペルハーえ、ダークゼロ勝ったかこれはダークゼロ勝ったか。すでに3キル。あ、サイクル見てるよ。ジェン TSM 挟まれてるよー。さあ一旦落ち着こう。おー強い。これかネメスネメちゃん。上から入ってた、下をやってるから。いやーきついなこれ。あーこれはねきついですね。言うてこのエヴァンのポジワンチャン切れるな。 D のも挟まないよなこれ。 SSG どこ行ったん？死んだ？クラストこれ来たらやばいな。 TSM マーさんキーボーやばい。アイムでプレマイロック。オーマイゴー。さあダークゼロがこれは勝つ予感。ダークゼロ勝ったか。もうこの時点でダークゼロ勝つ気するんだけどどうなんこれ。さあスイートが若干苦しそう。若干どころじゃないねあれは。もう終わりそうだね。あ SSG の時期だこれは。生きてんだけど終わったおっと中央あえての中央アンチスイッチ。おーちょっとあったかそう。微妙バレたら終了。しかしそこしかない。さあオキシジンこれは後ろ来たらいい。さあアンチ入ってるか。階段下誰かいるそこに。オキシジンか。COL 死んだ。ダークゼロか。ダークゼロだ勝った。ダークゼロ勝ったこれさあここで登るだけだと。しかし SSG 来てる。あやばいこれは。 おっと、しかし SSG どうだ？なんか微妙だな。覗かないのか。まあ言って待ってたら大丈夫だけど。あー、それ別パが打たれてんね。ダークゼロこれ登って SSG とのファイトか？さすがに。まあカタウルトあったら切ってなんとか耐久できそうだけど。まあ空爆ぶん投げてのカタウルトだろうな。さあ SSG もこれ登られる前に処理したいと思ってるけど、これ GG が邪魔だね。 GG が邪魔だね。これきついね。登ってきた。そのまま行くんだ。やべえ、ノーモーション。これぞノーモーション。さあ片壁で一旦耐久だね。はいはいはい。これは分かってた。さあただジェン死んだ。空爆がなかったんか。ただダークゼロの2人2丁残ってるよ。SSG 効率状態 GG もなかなかのポジだよこれ。 GG 有利かな今のところは。見た目はこれでさらに効率。これは GG ウィンだ。でもフラットで書いてあるけど、これ何別チームじゃないの？違うの？わかんないけど、まあいいや。やばい、ゼロ。いやーん、しかし7キル。フラット。さあ、これは片壁の裏行ったら効率してるからね。さあ、ただ、これ何ルイズライなんていうのこれ。ルイスあるか、ルーか。これはチャンス !GG チャンス勝った。さあ落ちるよ。落ちてるよ。これはイージーウィンだー。簡単で、この人は一体誰なんですかね。ちょっとググってくるか。メンバー GG ってチームだった？これフラットだった？誰だ？ GG だね。フラットって書いてあったけど何なんだろうこれ。前のチームかな。ちょっとわかんないですね。
Yeah, great knowledge of where they were in the zone in comparison to everyone else as well. Didn't have to force anything. Knew that SSG were going to have to fight in that position and just waited to pick the pieces up. It was a simple end game for them to take care of. There's always a fight you have to take before that. That kind of good position. So shout out to Flat. They're going to be the winners of game number 1.
フラット何なんだろうね。わかんないわ。
Like I mentioned, still involved in that game down right until the very end. Yeah, Dark Zero inside that top 5. LG, Sweet managed to rate his way to the top 5 if I'm not mistaken at least.
ダークゼロなんですよ時代は。
SSG new back to Apex Legends and PLP, formerly obviously known as, continuing some form we saw previous.
Yeah, everyone looked very impressive. Mark, I'll let you go and bring Stella back into the fray here to see her thoughts and discuss things. I mean, Stella, an interesting match one. I mean, 5 squads remaining in the final circle. One of them was a rat, but it was certainly an entertaining final circle.
It was incredible. I was surprised that Sweet did not get noticed for as long as he did, especially being so close to Flat. But I also want to shout out Flat for doing such a good job of taking up so much space in that outer courtyard. And then all they had to do was wait for Oxygen and SSG to finish their fight, and Flat won with very, very, a lot of ease. And it was just incredibly smart of them to spread out and make themselves feel like they were more of a force to fight against. So of course the other teams were going to face each other. Yes, and Sweet did get eliminated at 5th spot, but that placement is pretty good. And TSM was out at 9th place, which I was a little bit surprised about. But again, storm point rotations, it's really easy to get caught out of circle, and that's kind of what happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, TSM were just fighting uphill, couldn't really get the damage onto DNO. DNO died instantly after killing TSM as well. It was just one of those where it was never really going to work out for either squad because there was going to be another team waiting in the distance. Just a zone pool that pulled away from both of the teams, and sometimes that's all you can work with. But 9th isn't the end of the world, and 8th isn't the end of the world for DNO as well. You have to try and gain as many points as possible, even in the unfavorable zones, and that's what will make you have consistent points, and that's how you will find yourself just climbing the leaderboards and getting closer to playoffs. Speaking of, I think we can look at the match results, and we can just see how everything's looking, Stella.
Yeah, absolutely. And Flat coming in first, of course, with 21 total points, 9 kills, which is pretty impressive. That is a lot higher than even Optimus scores, and Dark Zero, who we saw absolutely fragging out. Dark Zero only 2 kills behind, but of course, with Flat getting the placement points, they do jump up in score.
Yeah, very impressive 21 points, but down at the bottom we saw Skirt unfortunately went down in the early stages because of that contest that went down. It didn't really work out for their opposing team. Even though they won their contest, weren't really able to move quick enough. That is sometimes the detriment of being in a contest, that even if you win it, you are so far in the rotation race, you struggle to make your way. I mean, it was a difficult rotation anyway because it was a southern zone, but that's always going to be extra frustration for sure. Lots of gaming. Optic Gaming, Native Gaming, Elevate Gaming, Drop-In Gaming, all the gamings, but they all find themselves in the bottom 10.
Of course, yeah, and look at the damage from our top 3 placement teams. And it was pointed out that these are all the teams that we talked about today at the top of show. Listen, I hope that doesn't count as Caster's Curse, but I think we're right on the money here. Oh no, don't say it.
That's how it happens. Well, all it takes is one mention of it, and then suddenly the Caster Curse, it happens.
2705
You've got to be impressed with Nano. 2.7k damage coming out of Nano there. Very impressive, and you need players like that on your squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, damage is all about being able to crossfire with your teammates, and it doesn't even matter. At this point, it doesn't even matter if you get the kills. It matters if your team gets the kills, and that's exactly what they were able to do. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have match number 2 ready for you.
車移動した。すげえなあれ。車で死ぬチームいるんだな、NA にも。ダークゼロああいうことないよな、多分。ちょっと BGM 消すわ。俺の収益減っちゃうからよ。なんかの BGM がいつもね、引っかかってんだよな。なんかの BGM が。だからいつもアーカイブなんかカットしてる。まあ NA が一番強いですね、明らかに。明らかに。A3 までの1位はどこだっけ？ダークゼロか、ルミノシティじゃなかったかな。ダークゼロだね。ダークゼロ1位の LG が41。ダークゼロ13だね。で、LG が、5？ 5かな？ 4 か。41かな多分。クイズいつもやってるのか。
Alright, welcome back. Hi, Gaskin. How's your
Welcome back.
Get some water?
Yeah, I had a minute to run to the bathroom, got some water, I'm refueled, I'm hydrated, I'm ready to go for another game as always.
Awesome. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about who you think is going to win today. Who do you think is going to come out on top? Dark Zero looked really strong, but also, I mean, that last circle was so chaotic. I have no idea if it's all RNG or if we're going to see better performances.
一番キロのがボルトだね。次は99だね。で、リピーターかな？どうだったかな？
But I'm still thinking SSG are going to be a team to watch today. I think being signed by a new
リピーターは別にキル率高くない。
You can say the same for Flat, by the way, being signed by GG. It's always going to give you that extra little bit of a boost, and also that extra bit of, all right, we need to prove ourselves. And I don't want to say people don't try when they're not performing on a new org, but it just makes you try that little bit harder, you know. So I want to keep an eye on both of the new signings, to be honest, because they're both going to make a big impact here.
Yeah, of course. And we did see that there was a little bit of contest at the wall with FaZe and Temper today, and I think FaZe won out on that, which was great, but they also didn't really, they weren't really able to sustain that throughout.
Revenant!
They did get 3 KP, but their placement wasn't that great.
うわー、レブファイト。これがレブラント。見せてくれ、俺たちにレブラントの力を。
FaZe will be hoping for a little bit of a more northern zone because sadly, when you do have to take a contest, you take so long. You need to have the time on your side, and that is going to be happening.
インターバル、トップタイム。結構つなぎも大変だよ。時間かかるしな。
It is really important to rotate as soon as you can because it's one of those things of you can get one of those quite easily. But I'm going to leave the game to you and Onset to carry out match number 2.
おっと、フェイズとテンプルだっけ？わかんねえけどな。おっ、バカった！
FaZe, all the pennies on FaZe, but Temper are starting to take a lead. The RE45, the RE45
スナイプ スナイプの武器全部パクられた。あー、勝った！来た！夢の武器！チャージライファー！
I want to see a charge rifle shot hit right
now.
Oh! It's not 100.
FaZe! All dead.
FaZe not going to get to play.
来たー、レブラ！
Let's see what happens. I mean, this
あ、ここは
by the way, all the flight path.
あ、骨広がって当たるのか。はいはい。後からですね、これは。
Even had Skirt land yet for the second contest.
Yeah, this is why I like the dropship being this way because it means that we get to see two
さあ、一旦アサルト、はい。スアレスさん、メンバーシップ。最高！あ、あざっす、こんばんは。こんにちは。あ、おはまるこんばんは。アルブラ君は、レブラント強いのかちょっと知らないけど。どうなんだろうね。日本でレブラントなんて絶対ないけどね。おっと、左側っすかね。したよのかな。レブピック2パだけど、初動ファイト用だね。
That's why I play Revenant. Anyway, CO Station is going to be our focus of attention. Usually we see these zones pull just to the west side of Sito. We'll have to see if that is going to be...
大丈夫、こっちはキーマウだから、アルブラ。アルブラはキーマウに戻ったから。キーマウ2だね、アルブラチームは。
Damage is going to be capitalized on as far as Nox is concerned at this point. The height is going to be taken though, and the height is always an advantage. Scurry though, look at him. He hasn't got any meds to play with. But this early contest hasn't been able to pick himself to
さあチャンス。これチャンスだね、効率。ああ、しかしいいカバーしてくる。あ、バラバラだ。え、なんで左行っちゃうのこれ。右だろ、普通に。あ、そら死ぬよ。そら死ぬよ。当たり前だわ。アルブラの方行かないんだね、今の。まあ、激浪でもなかったしな。なんだったろうね。まあ、激浪だったら別に潰し行くんだよ。わかるなよ、それは。激浪じゃなかったんだよな、別に。なんだろうな。わからん。なんで左行ったのかわからなかった、アルブラ。今、敵の情報も結構入ってたんだよね。だってバンがまず割って遠い位置でしょ。で、アルブラの目の前に一人でしょ。で、味方をぶっ殺したやつが左にいたわけだから、あんなアルブラに合わせて一旦その一人落としたらいいんじゃねえと思っちゃうけど、俺。アルブラを引き、ダークゼロの国戦だー。ワールド国戦始まりました。あのダークゼロがやるんですか。メタだー。ダークゼロがやるんすか。これを素晴らしい。世界の国戦いただきました。
You would say a win for sure for Dark Zero. They take control of the building now and they're going to be chilling here for quite some time.
いや、見るからそこ最速ハイドはね、強すぎるね。もう警戒しないもんな、あんなの。早すぎて。湧いてるみたいな感じだもんね、マジで。
Checkpoint also had a ring console. I don't
いやー、
think it was
強いわ、それは。
down beast for Optic to work with. They did have a survey beacon, but no.
アルブラって練習してないの？そうなの？
concern that you had brought up at the start of the show for Optic, and perhaps one of the reasons why they haven't
アルブラ練習してないの？
as much success is because down beast certainly hasn't
見てこようじゃあ。
ring consoles as it used to.
Well, SSG do have one over at Launchpad once again, but I think much like TSM,
アルブラって練習してないの？本当かよ。
they're first. We're not going to have a prior position. Let's take our time. Let's move around the map.
昨日は2時間4分、3日前16時間、4日前5時間、3時間50分、8時間とかやってるけどね。6日前3時間、1週間前5時間。毎日やってると思うけど。鉄拳やってるわ、でも。鉄拳やってたりしてる。トライング試練会とか。あ、いいのか、これは。マウスパッド書いたのか。スクリーム。これやってるよ、これ。ロールとかもやってるけど。いや、言うてやってるくないか。パルワールドとかやってるけど、2週間前。別ゲームやってるね、確かに。別にまあ練習しないってわけじゃないと思うけども。でも確かにプロリーグ期間中にやることじゃないね。普通に。まあ、そんなにガチじゃないんじゃないのチームが。わかんないけど。どうなんだろう。ゼロって切れながら、エイムの立ち回りが最高峰の飲んでるの。しろね。頭いいんじゃないの普通に。別に切れてるから弱いとかないけどな。闘争心があるんですよ。切れたやつのが。いやべえ、なんでそんなんで落ちんだ。やったもんか。パルワールドは面白いからしゃあないっすよね。パルワールドはね、やりますよ。俺ちょっと今時間なくて全くやれてないけど。アルブラロールどうなんだろうね。結構ちょこちょこ前やってたけど。やっぱ海外勢はロール多いよな。ロールに。さあ、突っ込んでいく。ウィングマンだよ。出たよ。始まったよ、このゲーム。ウィングメン簡単だ。はい、イージーゲームだ。あ、ずれークソだな、マジで。クソゴミウィングマン、強固時とか頭1個とかにも強いからね。まあ安定感はないんだけど。言って今威力高いからもうとりあえずなんか打っときゃいいしな。まあいつも通りっすね。いつも通りだね。
If you have a legend that can give you the ability to see what's in those care packages, if you see a wingman, you better be getting it. Even if you have to work hard to get there, make sure you retrieve that. But with the changes to the care packages, seeing the red weapons now in the early stages, it makes a huge difference with the wingman coming into people's hands.
おお、右に行くのかこれ。ふわっとまた勝つのかこれもして。しかし TSM はいるこっちには。TSM 多分第3-4だよな今。第3-4でこっち来てると思うんだよね。さあダークゼロこれ外れちゃったけど。いや第3-4段組これ有利っすね。逆なんだね。まあ、確かにみたいになっちゃったもんな普段これ。昨日ウィングも初めて使ったけどめっちゃ強かった。ウィングは鬼強いよ。今使わないやつをやばいよ。拾わないやついないよ。後ろに拾わないやついないよ今。弓だけじゃね捨てるの。捨てる可能性があったとしても。弓も超強いからね。3発で死ぬし。ウィングマン通常武器はね、どうだろうね。安定感ないからな。弾持ち悪いからね、スナイパーもらったの。そこがクソなんだよな、意外と。まあでも今 SMG 弱いから、持つのは全然あるよ、ウィングは。まあランクだったら持っていいと思う。競技心はね、弾持ち悪いからないね。個人的には。まあ武器調整次第かな。おっとまたハイドかまたハイドじゃねこれ。これまたハイドでしょ今の。明らかに変な方向いてたけどこれ。 2回目やんのか、ダークゼロは。リドルですら2回目やんなかったぞ、昨日。ダークゼロやべえ。練習してるハイドの。ハイド調整してる、これ。やばいな。素晴らしいな、これ。これが正解なんだな。ダークゼロがやるんだよ。ハイドゲーだー。俺も超入るしだけど。正解ムーブ。TSM! TSM! TSM! さあ、GG が勝ってるかどうか。しかし TSM はクラフトしてアンチ中入ってきてるから、物資的には強いね。これは蹴りたい。さあ、ただこの家壊れてるから弱いんだよね、あんまり。
One of the ideal spots for TSM, and I think Flat will be pretty happy with their spot as well. Because TSM have that ring console information, so they weren't blindsided by this pull, and that's one of the benefits of them playing late.
あ、第3読んでるね、ちゃんと。これは、クラフトもして第3読んでアンチ入れてるのはね、強すぎるね。
Yeah, and sometimes you're always thinking like, wow, we didn't get prio to this zone. Like, how are we going to approach it? This is the benefit of planning a rotate and path.
まあ、死はいないしね。まあ、スキャンキャラも消えていいよ。うん、ゼロでいい。スキャンキャラいっちゃいけないね。こういうゲームに。そもそも出すことは俺間違いだと思うけど。全然違う方向なんだけど、やべえ、このゲーム。これはフラット有利っすね。じゃあ COL は、COL やばくねこんな。運良すぎだろ。ダークゼロ、右往左往してるわ。どうしようどうしようって。SSG なんて、SSG もさっき多分バロメーターで読んだから入ってきたね。TSM 一旦これ待機だね。フラットが多分ぶつかるから後ろで、こっち側で、それの待ちだね。まあエレベーターここら辺キープだね。入れるポジションないから、まあ死ぬね、結構。ここで相当減ると思うよ。第3だけど結構減りそう。フラット潰しに行かないよ。別にそんな突っ込むはしないね。マジで。だってギョフラルもあくまで周り弾きながら TSM を嫌がらせしてワンピック取れたら潰すかなぐらいのレベルだね。だいたいそんなもんだよ。いきなり潰したところでフラットのポジション取られたら弱いからね。3ポイント取ったけど雑魚ポジになっちゃうのは意味がないからな。勝てなくなっちゃうね。フラットに関してはチャンピオンポジだと思ってるし、今のところ。やばいよ、D の突っ込んできてるよ、これ。これはお互い不幸なやつだね、おそらく。ってモバリス作ってんだけど。いやー、タワー壊されたあるな。いけんのかこれ正直運ゲーだね。これただ落としてるんだけど、ドゥープラックス死んだ。運ゲーだー。さあ、ダークゼロこれ索敵できてないからね、ちなみに。索敵できてないのに移動。これ入れた天才。LG はここ。はい。ここは誰か取ると思った。ただ LG だったね。さあ、その下もいけんのか、意外と。これ、外側の人たち撃たれるんじゃないかな。さっきいたもんな。どうだろう。マップの右下いるかな。あ、ダークゼロやばい。やばいよ、これ。最後取れちゃった。いや、しかしこれはきついね。これはブチギレか。あダークゼロブチギレっすよ、俺。GG 死んだ。GG 死んだ。TSM 全部取った。 これ TSM 熱いな。まあ COL が一番近いんだけど。さあ攻めたんですが、さすがに回る車線が多すぎるなこれ。意外と知らなかったな。さあ COL 次は言ってるこれやべえ。オキシ突っ込んでくんのこれえぐマジ。さあ取ってしまった。これ突っ込んでくんだな。やばいな。漁夫ねえし TSM に関しては神ポジだし、ただ後ろのバースティがいるところがやばいね。さあ SSG これはこれオキシ終わったね。 SSG 漁夫 G のSSG G7 使ってやるわ。いいな神武器 G7。その後ろの Wi-Fi とか潰したいね TSM。 おっと逃げたぞ逃げたぞ逃げたぞ。あ2人かこれ。TSM これはいいとこ取ってますね。神ポジじゃねえ。ここら辺確か岩とかあるからすげえ打てるよ。おしくんレッツハンドガンなんかウィンが持ってる。鬼圧か TSM 勝ったか。 SSG は今壁ないからこれめった打ちにされる。オプティックオプティックはギリ先ちょいってのかな。裏切ってキルパカすぎながら攻めれる。さあ TSM もキル取った。SSG 死んだ。オキシジンまだ持ってんだけどこれなんだこれ。さあエレベーターしっかりさっきのとこ入った。さあ TSM は圧倒的有利か。まあシオールが一番近いんだけどどうなんだろう TSM。TSM だこれ TSM 目の前だ。勝った TSM ウィン勝った。 TSM もうこれ負けんだろ。エレベーターがスーパーツッコミしてくる可能性があるからそれだけちゃんと抑えた方がいいな。シリンジシリンジシリンジ注射器これって
Well, they have a wingman on this team, by the way. They have a wingman over on the north side. They're resing right now. I'm not worried about that. We have to worry about north. One guy cross here.
エレベーター向こう行った。マジチャンス
95 flash. They're going back inside the tunnel. There's nobody going north. They all cross.
勝ったこれは TSM 負ける要素ない。勝っちまった。もう昨日のフナティック状態みたいな感じですねこれ完全に。フリー昨日わかんないけどもう完全フリーですねこれ。もう負ける要素ない。これはもうないっすね。他のチームこれゼロっすね。勝つ確率。フリーキース。さあヘブロック弾ないね。おいおいおい。さあオキシジンが死にそう。エレベーターこれ当たらないんだね TSM に。逃げたな。生きることを選択した。多分これ当たりくんだよなフナティックとか。まあでもわかんないね。後からこの端っこの方に TSM の横取ってカタリストでっていう感じ考えてるのかもしんないけども、なんか船だったら当たりってそうな気にするな。
And that's certainly going to help things, especially in the hands of Reps, one of the best precision players on M&K you could possibly want in.
でもエレベーターこれ即死しそうだけどね普通に エレベーター気づいてる？あ、気づいてるね。ひよったな、エレベーター。俺ひよった気する。
Yeah, as long as none of the other teams kind of jump out and send it onto TSM, they certainly are in prime
う
position.
わー、ベインが、うわ、ちょっとかわしたこれだよ。
Damage onto oxygen and make other teams aware that oxygen are there. If you fire bullets towards them, suddenly everyone else
あ、やば
realizes
い
there's
ね。
players there. They
あ、
are
死ん
worried
だ。
about, and then that is less gunfire.
さあ、エレベーターこれは切るだけ。これはいいね、生き残った。
Beginning to close here and beginning to force these teams
さあ、オキシン死んだ。おっと、これ来た。オプティックー。マジ刺さったー。負けだー。さあ、不幸にしていく。え、ワンタブ。かっけるかっけるかっけるかっけるかっけるかっけるかバッテリー。オプティック。さあ、これ COL もしたっけ？オフリくんじゃねこれ。オプティックとエレベーターの。さあ、オプティック死んだ。これ5分じゃねえかな。COL どこなんだろうな。行かないか。チャンピオン取るんだったら行かないけど。あ、行かない。行かないとなんとCOL これ挟まれるか。どうだ3バス3バス3ス。3バス3ス。さん。ほら、当たりいったぞ。TSM！ 勝った屋根をキープ。しかも後ろにしっかりカバーがいる。シオールが横から打ってこない限り大丈夫。いや、負けんなら俺はさすがにもう。あ、待って、エレベーターが変な突っ込みしてくるかもしれない。これ下からやばい。あー、ウィングマンはー、ホライゾンウィングマンクソだろマジ。ホライゾンキルろ、ホライゾンマジで。あー、TSM が3位COL！ Oh my god！ ホライゾンリフトウィングはクソだマジで。これよホライゾン、そりゃダメだ。ああ、
wait for someone else to do the work for you, and then you start to get involved. And I said I was worried about a Horizon Grav Lift, and it was exactly that, and it was the wingman. They just
言ったろ、ホライゾンリングマンって。ホライゾンリフトウィングマンって。
disgusting to watch, actually. The wingman
俺笑っても左にしても。ああ、切れてるよ、これ、本当に。みたいな。ホライゾン、ははは、みたいな感じだった、今。あ、切れてるよ、これもう。実況解説も。出た、ホライゾン、みたいな。これだから、ホライゾンは。
3 bullets you're dead. So I think that situation and that
今のぶち切れたら嘘。そら切れるだろうな今のは。切れない理由なくね今の。俺らぶち切るよ今の。
EA as well from the position they were in, holding off Optic on that low ground to be involved in that final fight. I think they had a great game.
いや今のはねぶち切れっすね。離席してんじゃんインペルハル。離席してんから泣いてるなこれ。だいぶ泣いてんね。見た目が泣いてるもんこれ完全に。
struggling a little bit when they had to try and force themselves onto the upper ground, especially when we saw how deal that amount of damage. But Elevate did very well to use the Dark Veil to their advantage to get into a position, and then the Horizon Grav.
見た目が泣いてる。
It was beautiful to watch, but sadly it wasn't enough to win them the game.
All right, then, Dan, take a break, my friend. Get your breath back, and we'll bring Stella back in to talk about what we just saw, because Storm Point was fun. And I got to say, Kim Chi just sits on the side, you know, his internet comes out.
I'm gonna play the room.
Do you know what, boys? I think we should win some games of Apex. There he goes.
I know.
It's a cute
Workout, right? Like it's good to rest your muscles for a little bit and then come back for longer.
I killed one underneath.
I mean, I would love to see people win the other
Yeah,
way.
you'll do this.
I don't hear people
Sure.
talk about complexity.
怖いんだけどな。
My bangle. Make sure they don't swing. Make sure they don't swing. Make sure they don't swing on you guys. I'm gonna get hit by my bangle. I got a bad throw.
Way too much damage, but
Safe on me. Safe on me.
so well.
I'm just dead. Like,
わでウィングは5発で死んでんだけどやばい。リフト中5発当てられてる。
climbing.
step through. You know, actually
え
finding the target visually.
リフトって怖さ当たれてんだけど。ごめんなさい、これ。
Everyone's can come down to skill, but also a little bit of luck sometimes. You might get the line of sight first before another player can. So
I just got four tapped. I got four tapped out of the queue. Like, what the fuck was that?
before everyone else really had an idea of where it was going, 8 kills alongside a 20
切れてる。
massive game from Complexity.
I fucking hate the wingman, man.
I mean, they
Oh my god. Somebody else shooting the fucking horizon out of the queue, man? How did we not kill that?
kills, which was really great. I mean, it was just
You
unfortunate.
have a wing. Like, you need to insta-kill that kid out of the air, man. Like, I just literally got 5 tapped out of the horizon queue from that kid.
俺の Q
Literally got 5 tapped only by him.
Also, the positioning was just really bad at that point. I don't know if they could have come back.
めっちゃ切れてる。笑ったな。さあ、シオル8キルと。
How tried to make a play to
面白いっす。
kind of dominate
いや、でもあれはブチ切る。やばいね、今の。
lack of a secondary. We heard it. We have no
インペルハルの赤いみたいなのが来るけど、ブチ切れてますね、マジで。すごいぞ。
where he felt he could output the most damage. So TSM game winning spot.
5発でしっかり死んでいくからな。リフト中5発やばいな。
In the safest way they could have.
かわいそう。
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a little surprising to see LG and Dark Zero on the second page, which, I mean, it was a tough opening for them. But look at the top 3 here. Look at that damage.
10キル取ってるよ、
Everything is so
TSM.
close together. Now, we do see
まあでも
Complexity
勝つチャンスあったね。
two teams, Elevate and TSM, just because they were in circle first, and that's kind of what
まあ
happened.
痛いっちゃ痛いな、
But
正
they
直
made up for it with
3位
lots
は
of points.
They certainly did indeed, and a shout out to Elevate. I think their rotate was a lot tougher than Complexities, and I think they put themselves in a great spot and navigated
確実に勝てる。
as well to Zap. I mean,
いや、ホライゾンに破壊されたね。ホライゾンなんだよな。
just absolutely ping Imperial How off the top of that building, which kind of swung the whole complexion of that fight back in their favor. And then clutching up in the 1v1 is what you live for if you're an Apex player, and that's exactly what they do in those final moments.
ある方武器玉ゼロだっ
Absolutely.
た。
I also want to point out that EA
片方
did a
片方
great
玉ゼロ
job
だっ
of
た
cleaning
わ
up
かんないけど。
Optic, who also fantastic jump from game number 1. I mean, they really improved their gameplay. It was unfortunate that they did have that fight with Elevate down below, but Elevate also came out on top, and they were doing really well.
Yeah, I think Elevate winning that fight against Optic. Yes, Optic have to make the play. They have to drop, but sometimes it's very tempting to, you know, swing out yourselves. Oxygen was still alive at that point, I think, so you're worried about that line of sight and a couple of bullets swinging a fight away from you. Winning that fight against Optic was probably the key moment for them to pick up not only extra points and kills, but also some placements as well. Complexity, top, looking very, very strong. You can see at the top of the leaderboards at the moment, 26 points for them.
パンチやばかったね。あれは無理だね。
That is great for them, and Flat also with 21, which is great. TSM has 18, Dark Zero is 15, and LG is getting 8, and they are in 10th place right now. So, going to be really interesting to see how
まあまだ全然どこもある
3
ね。
goes. I mean, we know that these teams are going to be really mad and want to come back and be able to get some of those points back, especially Dark Zero and LG. So, I wonder, do you think that they're going to be a little bit more aggressive this time around?
I think it's Dog Zero going to play the Dog Zero way. I think the reason that they didn't have a great game, like by the red stands, that last one is they just didn't read the zone properly. It was a tough zone for everyone
今
to
起き
read
た
properly. So,
2度かな。ああ。
Yeah, that
これトータルだ
end
ね。
circle was just atrocious, but it's all right. Hopefully, with the next game, they get a better end circle. But real quick, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we'll have the next game ready for you.
ちょっと見とですね、ここは。そうだね。インペリアハルさん、ちょっと、さっきの見る。ぶち切れてましたね、マジで。面白いぐらいぶち切れましたね、今。
I'm gonna play the roof. Can I play the roof? Kill on it. Make sure they don't swing. Make sure they don't swing. Make sure they don't swing on you guys. I'm gonna get hit by my bangle. I got it back. They're double stun left. I'm safe on me. I'm safe on me. I'm just dead. Like what?
What?
Play your side. Play your side. Just play your side.
What って言っても。What?
Yes. They're right below you. Climbing. You're getting that zone.
I'm crawling to the right. I'm crawling to the right.
ハルトローリングって言われてんだけど。
Man.
GG.
I just got 4 tapped. I got 4 tapped out of the queue. Like what the fuck was that? Bro. I fucking hate the wingman, man. Oh my god! Is nobody else shooting the fucking horizon out of the queue, man? How did we not kill them?
We both were,
bro. They're just smoking on top of us.
いや、マジ面白いな、
You
こ
have a wing, like you gonna insta kill that kid out of the air, man. Like I just literally got 5 tapped out of the horizon queue from that kid. Literally got 5 tapped only by him.
う。ホラード Q ナーフって言ってた、今。
He was shooting you out of the queue. Like,
Yes, I know. I can't do anything about that. I don't know what am I supposed to do there. He literally just hit every single shot on me.
Oh.
You also, I don't know why, like, you should have not catwalled, I feel like, ever there. But it's fine. Like, if I
the
just...
problem was the building team could shoot me and Jordan where we were at.
You also...
We had to move. Like, they had to move. They needed to
you need to peek. You also need to peek, Evan. Like when I say that the guy's one shot, like in their, you need to like start playing aggressive on their catwalls, bro. Like the Bangalore is 1 bullet. I hit him for 190 when he climbed up below me from the low ground. Like if you just peek.
Watch for you though. So.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. Like they're not. They catwalled. They're not gonna climb on me.
やりやり190入れて、なんちゃらかんちゃらって言ってんな。クライミングって言ってるわ。
We just played way too like passive there.
And it's great to see complexity finding a victory there, and hopefully they can use this themselves even more in this match.
でもパッと投げなかったな、今日は。サイドスローなかったね。サイドスロー見たかったな。カチャカチャマウス連打してたわ。カチャカチャして。イライラしてんだろうな、これ。
I think that zone was a little bit rough for them. I think it was a little bit rough for a lot of people, apart from complexity, to be completely honest with you. So we're going to have to see how things change.
さあ、初動入ってみるか。水切りのようなパッドのサイドスロー。伝説のクリップ。さあ、ヘイズとテンプル。さあ、ゼロ、いいね。ディボーションだよ。ホライゾンか。キーマンホライゾンなんだね。さあ、リフ置くかな。せーの。これ分かれていくんか。なるほど。いいね。いやー、つえー。おーっと、これは。やべ。Oh my god. チャージライフル。チャージライフルもらったの。ヘッドもらったみたいな感じだったかな、今。
Always a 50-50 with those listeners. We didn't get the right one, but you know that's just how the cookie crumbles. We go back though to Cenote Cave, where we had the previous 50-50 that was happening.
まあ難しいよな、やね。
In this contest, Albrelli off the Revenant, and we've got Horizon back in the fray.
さあ、スキューリー。チネルチャージ熱いね、序盤の。
No, you're not allowed to do that one. Yeah, no, we don't even need to. Honestly,
you have to pay someone to do that. Don't do that.
I think literally you do. I don't even know if they can afford it. It looks like they are far enough away.
下だね。やるね、このゲーム。右下。なんか真ん中ぐらい。下。今のところ、上なし。フラットとしてはもう一回あんちゃってる。まあ、さっきぶち殺されたけども。これも伸びんじゃねえかな。来たよ。チネったチネル。ヘッド当てた感じだぞ。スキューリー。ヘッツ。アルバがやってもった。もう一発。ここ仕留められないとこれはもうない。あ、待って、逆にレベルアップだけ今来れないから。熱い。これ熱い。スキルいいね。さあ、レベルアップの警戒しちゃうね、これ。さあ、今のうちやっちゃって、もう突っ込んだよ、これ。キンクルヘッド、いけ。あらぶらい。やれねえのか、今の。ああ、いかないんだね。難しいね。まあ、レベラントも言うて、8ダジしか食らってないから来るからそのうちね。おー、これはやばい、このグレはアルブラが押さえるとしっかり。アルブラホライゾンしてる。相手ホライゾンいないな、そういや。これ勝ったね。相手ホライゾンいないよ。 気づいたかホライゾンって。レバード乗ってきたけど、こんなん返しちゃえばいいしな。ムキムキ早いムキムキムキムキしかし、カーの救助に当たんないな、これ。ムキムキムキムキ。一人で戦ってんもん、これ。一人で戦ってんもん、これ。味方追いついてないんだけど。やべ一生持ってくんだ、こいつ。出られた、ついにもう無理だあれ、ムキムキたまる、これ。もう一回行く。ガオー。スキャニング。ずるいな、これは。おー、これ裏取り。あっちー。やべ。あれなんかうまくいかないね。ロックないかー負けたー激メリじゃねえかよ
It's a valiant effort, has to be said. Far better performance than their first game. Remember, we learned from Amir, even if you go back to back games with 0 points, you still have a chance to move over to a different map where potentially.
負けんだな今の。結構もう余裕で勝つと思ったんだけど今上取って。うん。ちょっと意思疎通がちょっとできてないのかもしれないね割と。
I'm pleased that you remember what they're called again.
I didn't say Vamos.
裏取りしたけど結構逃げられちゃってんだよな。まあ後ろ来たら前押すに決まってんだよさ。そんな。単純だし裏取りがうまくいってないな。正面ファイト。黄色の定め。救急弾なかったんかな。
Yeah, we've seen this often, so players are going to be very ready. Yeah, they should know where to be going, where to be moving, and I think that is evident from the map overhead of how much congestion there is just north of Coastal Camp and the positions that teams are going to find themselves in.
Oチネルだ。NA はチネルか。570？おお、当てたね。さあ、ダークゼロ。遠移動。車撃たれちゃったんかなあ、車置いてあるわ。別人の車からなんだろう。
unaware to all those teams that have already found themselves on the southern tip. And you can see on this map overhead, there's a lot of them, right? There's a lot of teams that are
ESM はまあまた回ってそうだね。あ、右にいるわ。
And Dark Zero are just going to squeeze themselves in behind everyone and try and find somewhere to play.
Yeah, it's a good example as well of how TSM have started to approach these kind of zones as well. You see they rotate, they've gone through Stormcatcher, they've had Craft in there.
すぐ詰めなかったらキーマで近距離自信なかったからじゃね。味方の回復もあったけども、どうだろうね。わからんな。
Because they know this is going to be a really rough rotate for them. But one thing I will say, with the changes to Storm Point on these southern zones, I would say this time last year on Storm Point, I'm like, you ain't got a chance of winning this game.
チネルとチャーライ。
On the north side with so much traffic.
チネルでいいんじゃない。
Echo HQ, they have a lot more playable areas than previous POIs did. So there is ways to force your way in from the north and maybe use an evac tower late that there wasn't previously, and you can put yourself in a position to at least be involved in that conversation.
一方的にやつだったらチャーレン強いけどね。一方的にやつだったら。チネルは別に近距離使えるし、まあ使えるわけじゃないんだけど。すぐ撃てるしな。PQの時間少なくて済む。あー、めっちゃしちゃった。アルブラ引退どうだねー。わかんないな。いや、99めっちゃいるやつ使ってんの。モサは99だね、ガチで。99のキル率も高いからな。まあライフルも結構流行ってるけども。さあ、アンチェみたいね、これね。運なのかな。さあ、スコープなしか。LG だー。しかしアーマーちょっとムキムキなんだよな。さあ、スモーク。スモーク強えー。
But it
う
doesn't
お
look
っ
like it's gonna
と
happen.
エレベートマックスそうだぞ。
Elevate versus Native. Again, these two have been scrapping for the last 3 matches on Storm.
これ当たんないね。
Similar rotations and
チャン
similar
ス
paths, but Native, they have the better of them right
守
now.
備
They do Shubi going down, and that's going to turn the numbers in their favor at least. They rotate in to take the bottom side of this building. They have a white armor swap at the bottom of it as well. But they want more than this. 105 is going to be pretty good as Mamba will take down Zach Mazer. And even though it's been a great start for EA, this might look like a game where they don't come out of it with too much.
配慮してんだけど
I mean, they've done well to survive
すごいとこ
and
にな
escape with 1. I love this spot, by the way. Defying the laws of gravity as always.
Hey, it's Horizon.
Does Horizon? Yep. But Native, it doesn't look like they're going to be too desperate to look for that final player. Instead, it's about looting up. They hold the northern side, and this is what we're talking about, right? Arriving from north, you're going to be fine for the time being. You can win those engagements, you can dominate that northern side, but then as you get closer to the southern POI is when you're going to start to really see those struggles. So you need to have a game plan. I mean, evac towers, we have seen zones like this where people just evac tower in.
え LG クソ逃げてきたけどこれ TSM フリーじゃね右側やばマンチは下なんだけどこれはやばいねあやばいダークゼロが持たれてるこれ死ぬんじゃねこれ死ぬんじゃね覗かれたらやばいよこれあやばいこれ さあちょっと別のポジ見つけないとやばいなこれね
But maybe this position isn't one that they feel is comfortable to hold with lines of sight that are going to deny teams putting damage onto them consistently. So LG looking for somewhere else, and Sweet is doing it. But there's a team walking up on them.
そんな突っ込んでくるのやばいな相手 LG やばいこれはいや無理だこれはさすがにきつい
Sweet doing so well to dance his way out of damage as LG are just trying to escape. We've already seen one rat attempt from Sweet today when he got into the top 5. Well, he's going to have to do a masterclass of ratting if he's going to be able to do the same. But maybe he can actually help out Slayer here.
I mean, Sweet's full part.
え誰来たのオプシディンダークゼロか押してきたんかやばいな今の押すの
He's doing it all. Yeah, I'm good.
You cut out a little bit. I thought you said he's doing full pog, and I was like, what's the follow up here? But yeah, full parkour, and really is.
さあサイクルだけ後ろしっかり切ってるね周り
Yeah, let's be real. Dog Zero, they're involved in this end zone though, and they are looking for points.
いや強い開始意外と
Zero gets good damage, but takes a fair bit himself, and that's the danger of popping up.
あースイート死んだあとスレイヤーだけだ LG
Very, very close. There is a rubbing shoulders and there's rubbing body parts with too many people close that you find out about by only being in this position, Dan.
サーンチモロリ
Indeed, but Circle is going to keep pulling south, by the way, as expected. Anyone who was hoping for maybe a northern shift to try
す
and
げえ
get
ゼロと全バッテンめっちゃ突っ込むじゃんただバッテンちょっと使ってもうないからああ回収しんなんかなるほどいいですねだったらライターも回収ができなかったね
Dark Zero, you know, they're in a pretty good spot here actually. They've got some high ground to work with, plenty of cover if they want to use it. They just need to be worried about the northern teams arriving and potentially desperating a push onto them.
I mean, one thing they did really well, Dark Zero, was force LG away and
あ
into
死ねられてるよ
crossfire.
え危ないヘッション持ったら死ぬ危ない
Now they claimed all this space themselves. One thing I love that Dog Zero do, they're never afraid to like fully send 2 players in to try and get a knock just to force teams away.
さあただサイクルは後ろをしっかり切るという仕事がある
Is still alive for
さあバレ
LG.
た
Unfortunately, though, Zap is dead now for E8. That will be the end of their game. The solo player wasn't able to do it. And look, Native found him eventually.
Yeah, they waited. They were around. They weren't going to allow any sort of.
パルブラは最強格だったね昔どこで変わっちまった
By the way, 17 squads as Zone 3 is about to close. This is the kind of lobby that we expect to see in North America.
TSM 抜けてから
17 might go down by a few as this zone closes because we've got 4-5 teams who are outside of this zone and we've got a few gatekeepers. Eternal and Oblivion are certainly gatekeeping.
ランボー持ってんのクレーバ
So
ー
TSM might
ど
join
こ
them
スリー
on
パッ
that.
ト
Native gatekeeping out in the distance as well. They're stopping.
ちょっとわかんねえけどランボーはパッドなんだけど他がちょっとわかんないなまあさすがにクレーバーはキーマーが持つと思うんだけど
Otherwise, we have no chance in this fight.
ランボーが持ってってことは3パットかもね
Not a great start for them here on Storm Point after some very impressive performances in previous game days. But Kraber's going to help Native on their way.
おそういるそうそういるんだけどマジかよ活躍できてんのかなさあコンチェルト足止めさあ移動していくさあ一旦アンチいいですねリキッドいたっけ 誰といたっけリキッド。アルブラ。覚えてねえわ。あ、テンプルがやべえ。なんか突っ込まれてんだけど。えぐ。あ、G ケース。さあ、チャンス。おっと、危ない。アクスターコンジトルトこれのコンジトルトしかし結構これおっとやばくて TSM 全切りきた。まあここからキルコを取って最後勝ったらね。でアンチ上側入ればいいかな。さあ挟んでる。ただ G ケースこれ3人しっかり残れば TSM に当たれるぞ後で。さあ別パンも来てる。それを弾く。まあ TSM は突っ込むからないね絶対に。上取られたら負けるから。まあ突っ込んでもまあ突っ込まないね。100% ないね。まあ残り1人って分かったら2人に突っ込ませて1人が周り見とくみたいな感じぐらい。絶対ね、取られちゃいけない。ポジゲーだからな。さあ、ムーブがうまくいってるね、TSM は。今のエクセプトのメンバーだっけ？あ、こんな人覚えてないわ。They are that team at the moment. The barometer ring console gave them that info early, and they have played off the back of it superbly. GKS now make their rotation as well. Naughty does have the wall available on the catalyst to get down if they do take some crossfire here from TSM. So they do have a rotate option, and they've managed to just sneak up that hill. オプテック入ってんのかなまだあそこ。入ってないね。押すしかないね。さあ左はしっかり切って右アタックか。さあ右当たりだね。やるしかないね。ただ片壁の上からちょっとなんか打たれそうドロップだ。大丈夫かな。おーさあ突っ込んでいく。さあ丸さあ空爆来ちゃったんで一旦巻くしかないね。ズレが決まったらこれマジで熱いな。いやーそのミニファイヤーはやばい。さあ壁が切れてしまった。やばいドロップの死ぬ。ガチで終わる。これは無理だ。これはネイティブゲーミングですね。さあダークゼロが美味しくいただいている。さあ美味しい。まあネイティブもこれも死にかけだから多いですね。ダークゼロさあ美味しくいただいたダークゼロ。これがダークゼロ。しかし EC の車線しっかり気にしてるね。いいですね。さあ D のが遠上。あとD コンのところもいる。 TSM しっかり北キープ。あと移動しなきゃいけないね TSM。 ここは厳しそうだな。おっと EC 取ったとダークゼロ。これいくか。
Is that onto Eternal? If it's onto Eternal, that will give them the chance to potentially push up and take one of the better positions, and that's what Dark Zero want to try and do. Is
TSM どうする？遠上入ってんのかな？遠上入ってんやったら押すけどそこ。さあ EC2 段。おいハボクのすんだハボク。うわークレーバーだ。しかし下入ってる。ジップラインもある。8。さあ上の車線が怖くてちょっと顔出しづらいね。まあ上にスモーク焚いての下かな。そんな行く？大丈夫？さあその村行く。さあ張り付く。ホエー上。ジップラインちょっとチラ見して索敵するんじゃないかなこういう時。あ TSM 張り付け入ってんのかこれ。シオエルの残り1名か。さあオキシンもなかなかエリア広いですね。ただ下が怖いね。ダークゼロに後で押されるから空爆入れられて苦しくなりそう。さあダークゼロはこれ上が打ち合ったら今日振ればいいだけ。さあ最強ベインキーマウ最強角。 さあ、マーサーのキーボードダウン。あ、やばい !TSM さすがに苦しかった、この移動が。いや、もうきつい。おっと、なんとなってるか。やるしかねえ。やるしかねえけど、これ、待って、大つけ。あかー !TSM10! きちーこれは入れんな、マジで。これ無理だね。このアンチ生き残るのマジで無理じゃねえかな。ポジションないもんな、ガチで。やるしかねえもんな。入るという選択肢がもう無理だった気する。多すぎるわ。第6級部隊か。ダークゼルに関してはこれ、ヘイト変わらないポジションだしな。D のも打ち放題なんだけど。お、ロング持ってる。ダークゼルめっちゃキル伸ばしてるぞ。さあ、オキシジンこれ上取り切れれば、ダークゼル次切れるぞ。ただダークゼルはウルトラ出して登ると思うけど。どうだろう、オキシジンも結構広いけどね、アンチ。ちょっとどうかな。挟まれそうなところではある。ただ。いや。ステイフォーミーって言ってんのこれ。セーフフォーミー。セーフステイどっちかわかんねえ。アンメインお、ベインがやばい。大丈夫、ベインが強いから。さあ、まだ来てるぞ。セーフフォーミーか。オッケー。
Shoot this wall when it drops, okay? Yeah. Stay on me, stay on me. I'm hiding behind my conduit ult. You could do the same. We win this fucking game, boys.
さあ、壁切るところしっかり見てる。オキシーチャンスハモックパワー待って、エイダン落ちる。あー、落ちてしまった。いや、これ落ちんのは良くないね。押すしかなくなってきた。さあ、マスアップ。ダークゼロ持ってんじゃないのこれ。ダークゼロ死んだ？あ、死んでるわ。ダークゼロ死んだ？どこにいんの？お、もっとく死んでたわ。SSG？ これは何？死んだ？諦め？オキシジンだーオキシジン取った。ダークゼロ死んでたか。
And they'll be delighted with that. They were probably concerned the entire time when Dark Zero were below them. In the end, Dark Zero can't get up to them quick enough. They didn't have the ability to get up to them either. So Oxygen were able to kind of position themselves and take fights elsewhere. And they would have been delighted to then see SSG down on the low ground without the ability to take that fight either. But SSG also with a second place, which I'm sure they'll be very happy with.
Yeah, I think SSG probably look at that situation, realize they're a duo. They don't know the other team's numbers in the lobby. They're like, we have an opportunity to get an extra KP, guarantee ourselves second place. We're going to take that. Even though Oxygen were a duo themselves, they didn't have that information. They wouldn't have seen that kill feed with all the chaos that's going down in those final moments. So SSG making a decision you can understand to try and not win that game and secure some extra points. But Oxygen, how crazy is it, right? To just change your POI.
まあ、ワールドエッジ稼いでるチームっぽかったから。まだ3戦あるから。
Yeah, and you know, it can
落ち着くんだみんな。
the zones can not pull you away, and then you'll be like, all right, we shouldn't have moved, but
ただかなりどうだい？オキシジンが結構伸ばしたって感じかな。他はこうしてんのかな。
You've just got to get away from them. You've got to make sure you find a POI that is comfortable for you, a rotation that suits your playstyle.
知らねえ。大丈夫なの？わかんない。大丈夫のその。おっと、オキシジン7キルか。言うてたな。結構散らばったね。ダークゼロ9キル。なるほどですね。TSM3。 TSM ね、ワールド値あれなんだよね。ランドマーククソ強いから。アンチムーブに適していくからな。まあ、ワールド値は稼げるだろうね。あとは今、TSM アンチ全部外れてたから、厳しかったね。まあ、2試合目だけ、まあ、逆が寄ってくれたって感じだったけども。正直きついね、アンチが。まあ、稼げなくてしょうがないと思う。1試合目と3試合目は。あれは無理だ。
Quiet game for a few, but I think for LG in particular, maybe the expectation was there after a big start or a fantastic start for them here in Pro League, and you know, there's always going to be too disheartened. There are still 2 matches for them to make a big wave here in this A and B lobby, but is it going to be enough to take a victory? Unlikely, but you know, I've seen stranger things happen.
But it's all set up beautifully now for us to keep this thing rolling down. I think Stormpoint has been a little bit, I would say, unpredictable with how some of the zones have pulled. It's the first time I've seen some of those zones in quite some time. We have seen the one that we saw in the last game, but game number 2 was the one that really stood out for me. The complexity win, where they managed to close out that final moment. Stormpoint is kind of, I think, indicative of what we've seen a lot this season, right? It's the surprise factor. It's like, oh, we've played this in scrims. This is where this goes, and then it's like, Pro League's a little bit different, and we'll have to see if that is going to continue as we head back to World's Edge. But we'll bring Stella back into the conversation as we gives ourselves a little bit of time to just recover from what we've seen. And Stella, how are you feeling?
I'm good. It has been a great day of Apex matches. I mean, it has been really good to see these teams that we did speak about needing to step up their game actually step up their game, because like you said, a lot of the RNG has pulled in their favor, especially with DNO Gaming. I mean, they were in Coastal Camp and Oxygen Esports. They really didn't have to move too much. Everyone had to come to them. That makes fights a lot easier. And I want to say Oxygen did a great job of just communicating their comms were extremely clear and even calm when I probably would have been losing my mind. So obviously the teams are bringing their A games, and it's really, really good to see them just working together and being a fluid unit. Gaskin.
Yeah, I think that every team should be proud of themselves with how they performed so far. Those who are in the top half of the leaderboard, of course. Then in the bottom half of the leaderboard, that's where people are starting to scratch their heads a little bit, saying, all right, well, if we're in the bottom half of the leaderboard of this lobby, and we're also in the lower trend of the overall standings, what can we do in World's Edge to really change things?
コロナの時期も重なって運が良かった。
But this is crunch time. We mentioned it right at the start. Like, we're getting to the point now where if you fall too far behind, 進出っていう言葉がまずちょっとよくわかんなくて、30チームあって、20チームまでがまず決勝に行けます、地域の。そこから6周の合計のポイントで、残りっていうか上位12チームがさらに世界大会出るって感じ。まあちょっと複雑でわかんないかもしんねえな、普通の人は。
Hello, it's a pleasure to be back.
Yes. So now it is my understanding that you're the first Black female caster for the North American Challengers circuit. Is this right?
Yes, that is.
That's amazing. I feel like Apex is such a good game and esports for championing diversity, especially with their incredible roster of legends. And your title actually made me realize I'm the first female South Korean caster and host for ALGS. So I'm really happy to be speaking with you today.
That's incredible. Yes. The title of being the first of hopefully many to come is definitely something that I pride myself in. And also always keep in consideration that it's not just about me. It goes further than that. It goes down to the nitty-gritty of there needs to be more. And I think that Apex does a phenomenal job of showcasing diversity throughout, whether it be the game or their talent.
I want to jump in here and just ask a quick question before we start looking at the zones and everything that you've been watching today, Church. And I wanted to get who you had your eyes on before we saw the games today, because I know it would be very easy for you to say the 3 teams that have won so far, but who are you watching coming into today and saying, hey, I've got my eyes on these as a team to potentially watch?
Listen, Rambo is a good friend of mine, and I always want to see him succeed. So I was definitely looking forward to finding out if, you know, Native really puts the pieces together. I think they played definitely better today than they have previously. I think that things are starting to piece together. And whenever they have come up against somebody, they have played very
お
well.
っと、犬。
That is my thought.
Puppy into the room.
I know.
Hey, we're getting a
I
2
mean,
for 1 today.
the interview just got even better. I mean, perfect. I was going to say, we talk about teams that you are kind of like looking towards. Is there anyone who really is underperforming a little bit in your eyes today, or anyone that you expected a little bit more that hasn't maybe stood up on Stormpoint?
I would say Skirt definitely threw me for a curveball there. I did anticipate them playing better today in this series against Cream. However, I think some of their choices have been a little bit questionable, and I'm hoping to see them do a little bit better in performance-wise going towards World's Edge.
Yeah, well said. Now, you did such a great job of this in EMEA, so we're going to have you do this again. Can you break down the action in the final circles of the last 3 games we just did?
It would be my absolute pleasure. So going into match 1, we did have a devastated coast end zone. It was on the outskirts. However, we did have teams like Oxygen, Dark Zero, SSG, and GG aka Flat occupying space. Dark Zero did a phenomenal job of taking up space on the bridge, but I don't know if they really considered how much of a threat SSG was being in their backside.
デザイン部門の人なの？あ、そうなんだ。キャラクターの？
I do have to give kudos
AvsBのキャラってこと？
for taking their time and occupying space.
あ、ランパードが目だったか後ろの。あ、確かになんかそうかもしんない。キツネのやつ。
able to have somebody hold the back while pushing up forward, and as the zone creeps in, as SSG does get eliminated, they start to notice the development of this, and they take height, they take further space, they play big rather than playing small. They do have the kill leader on their side, so they're already feeling themselves, and they start to clutch it up here. You see Flat take these angles from the heavens above, get great shots with the 30-30, and Oxygen is just left with really no option there. Now going into match 2, this zone pull had me absolutely bamboozled, to say the least. TSM did a phenomenal job of clearing out Jurassic, taking out teams in their way such as Flat, and taking space on the height. Hal here does take a different perspective, which I really enjoyed. However, it seems that it did end up biting them later on, because EA did take that Q up, trying to get height over that Dark Veil, and Zap hit his shots. I mean, you can't deny a great wingman. However, I know Reps had the wingman too. It just seems like he was short there with Zap coming down from the heavens above, absolutely connecting each shot effortlessly on Hal, which definitely threw TSM in a blender for a bit. Reps did a phenomenal job trying to stay alive, trying to get KP on the way out. But as we knew, Complexity was sitting, taking their time, allowing EA to collect the Infinity Stones for Complexity to end up grabbing the gauntlet, ultimately. And then in match 3, another South Zone going over towards Coastal Camp, which was DNO's home. It seems that Oxygen decided to take up space. You know, they said, the rent's due. It's time for us to move in. And they did a great job of that. Ended up taking up so much space that it pressured other teams to fight each other earlier on. And DNO goes out just like that to Oxygen. They are able to get armor swaps. And unfortunately, SSG falls down low without any option to come back up. And I mean, a celebration for some, but it definitely a celebration for Oxygen as they take the win effortlessly there with no hope for SSG, unfortunately, falling down to the low ground to get that KP.
Yeah, that last one is such an unfortunate positioning, but thank you so much for breaking down the action. You are a god, you are amazing. Now we're going to look at the results here. And is this kind of what you expected to come out of today?
I have to say, LG's performance definitely was not what I had expected going into Stormpoint, with their success rate thus far being above 50%, and Dropping Gaming as well, with them being severely higher than most on Stormpoint. Them being in 10th, of course, isn't the biggest issue going into World's Edge. However, the outcome was not what I anticipated going into the first 3 matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. Okay, so with these end circles that you were describing for us, I do kind of want to talk about legend pick rates for North America. I think it's really interesting because these end circles get so chaotic, and we did see reps unable to move forward because of the conduit ult that was just laying there. So do you think in season 20 that we're going to see a change in just, I don't know, a nice little meta change up for the legends so that maybe the end circles aren't so chaotic?
It's funny that you mentioned that. One hope that I definitely have for season 20 going forward is a reason for people to choose a different legend, a reason for the meta to consistently adapt to the gameplay, a reason for there not to be a hard stuck meta, a hard reason of why you have to pick so and so. You have other options now, more dynamic choices and different compositions coming from all different angles. I'm really hopeful that, you know, in season 20 we have something that changes it up a bit.
Yeah, I want to see more ballistic. I want to see Mirage. Let's go. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us, Church. Yeah. Oh, don't
Thank you
get
so much for
Onset started about that. All right, bye.
Listen, Onset, I got you. Take it easy.
なるほど。
That's all I'm saying. I'm just, the hashtag is out there. It's worldwide.
キャラの性能とか決めてる人なんだ。そうなんだ。
because that is terrifying. But yeah, unfortunately, I
ってことは、ホライゾンをこの人が決めてるってこと
You have to give us the range, which means I can talk about how Pathfinder needs leg cannons moving forward in season 20.
ホライゾン
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
No, absolutely not. All right, well, you're leading us to the next game, so please go ahead and please don't talk about Pathfinder's light cannons, because that's...
ムーブ変わるかもね。3試合目終わった。人言ってるかもしれません。まあいいんじゃない適当で。
Let him finish his story, everyone.
Let him finish his story.
全然わかんねえよ。
That's what the hashtag was all about, everybody. It was about Pathfinder and leg cannons. Anyway, if you don't want to know what I'm on about, or you don't want to know what I'm on about, which might be another option, go back and watch the EMEA broadcast. Let's talk about World's Edge, though, Dan. Let's turn our attention away from nonsense and my brain and how it works, because it's a terrifying place, back to Apex Legends that we're seeing right now, because it's still very much an open lobby. Hitters haven't had some zones that have kind of gone their way.
巻き戻してみてくれ。映ってたかな
To the top of some of the teams we were hoping and expecting might show a bit of form this week.
Yeah, but well, they were words. When you get over to World's Edge, it does allow other teams who we may have had the expectations to still shine. We saw it happen in EMEA, a team that got 0 points on Stormpoint, then went out, got a victory, got a 3rd place on World's Edge, and propelled themselves into the top 6. So teams that have been fantastic at World's Edge, Dark Zero, the best World's Edge team that we have in North America based on the amount of points they've accumulated. LG as well, the 3rd best team that we have in North America, and Complexity actually in 5th when we look at World's Edge points. So those are the 3 squads who I'll be looking at to potentially pick up some big points here. And we have to also look back at, you know, what happened in A and B last time. We did see a few teams struggle in the early stages, but then pick it up. Dark Zero, you know, they found their first victory last time when it went over to World's Edge. So we will see teams who have a preference here. We know that certain contests are going to happen on World's Edge, so it's a fresh slate for a lot of these squads.
I think if you're FaZe as well, you have to take a little bit of
ここも被ってんのアルブラやってるやってんなこれな
In EMEA, they lost every single contest on Stormpoint. Then they went over to World's Edge. They won a game, and they ended up getting inside of the, I think it was the top 7 or 8, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember off the top of my head. 6th, excuse me. Wow. I mean, I'm underselling what they managed to achieve. So that kind of turnaround can certainly happen as we have a look at some of the drop spots here for the teams that we would expect. And Skirt and Oblivion. Skirt have had a rough time on the contest. We saw them losing every single one over at Cenote Cave. The question is, will Overlook give a little bit of a different coat of paint to their success so far? Are they going to be able to actually find some KP to win that contest to move into the game?
Well, the good news is FaZe aren't contested at Geyser. I remember last time we saw A and B, they were contested on both, and they really weren't having a great time. But now they at least have Geyser to themselves, or so we think. I guess we will be confirming that as we get a little bit further into this game and once we see the players dropping out of said dropship. But I'm excited to see whether, you know, anyone is going to surprise us. Is anyone going to show up? For example, E8 were able to pick up a top 3 last time on World's Edge, even though we've not really seen them been able to elevate themselves into a top position on Stormpoint.
まあランクが一番強いけど
Let's see how this game goes. We're in Legend Select now. We're going to have to see how the comps change up a little bit as well. I'm expecting Maybe not so many bloodhounds as what we saw previously. Oh, well, yeah, I'll see.
アルブラまた選んでんじゃん。
On team
レブラント。
Seeing elsewhere, just trying to cast my eyes across and see if there's anything else jumping up. Skirt going to be running it as well. Arbolelli is going to be back on the Revenant too. So I'm kind of hoping that one of those two teams.
オブリビオンしかもこれ同じグループじゃね？
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if the initial Revenant pick from Arbolelli was because they were contested by Cream and they wanted to say, all right, well, if you've got a Revenant, we want to have one as well, just in case that fight goes on long enough that the ultimates actually go into the equation. So it didn't really work out for Skirt in the end, but perhaps they get more of a chance to play Apex Legends here on World's Edge because the dropship is flying through the sky, the players are hurtling towards their POIs, and it's time to start match number 4.
Little note just at the start of this game, unfortunately for flat fans around the world, which I'm sure there are many of, two players have unfortunately had a power outage, so they're going to be playing this one as a solo. So shout outs to Flat and whoever the solo is going to be. Give them a little bit of extra juice. Maybe they can land on a Kraber, who knows, to see if they can find some points in this game. But unfortunately, that's what happens in life, isn't it? It's just something.
フックフリーかこれ。これ1チームかな。1チームだね。あ、わかんない。右しか当たってないからいるか。
They put on some really good points, but you know, it's just one of those things, and maybe who knows, they pick up a point here or there. Now, Cream not going to be in the contest as they were on Storm Point. They are going to be kind of sharing Skyhook with Dark Zero a little bit, but Dark Zero is between Trials and Skyhook. So as long as they don't spread themselves too thin, then they should be okay. Circle-wise, heading towards
Survey camp in if you are a Complexity fan or if you've watched Apex Legends for long enough, you should know by now that Complexity are landing right there. Great news for them. They've got a little bit of time to loot up as well, as there's nobody who's making too quick a rotation to speak of. But also the one thing I think for Complexity is console that they can hit before they have to move.
あっと LG 死にかけてる。あ、テンポ当たってねえじゃん。ミラージャートルは収録遊戯を。ツリーがアップギャンが早いね。あれからなんか中継となんかミラボヤ周辺だった。降りた位置はわかんないけど。はい、L スターでハボックです。ザ・バンが19、カタリストの 70% と、さあ、ホライゾン6か、これ。ローバ3もいんのこれ。多いな。本日と11。
I feel that they're going to have to get some damage done if they want to have any kind of success in this game, unless the composition is going to allow them to barricade themselves inside of a building for the long game. Elsewhere, you can see that Oblivion have a little bit of maybe an issue for a few seconds here. This is going to be happening over at Climatizer, and it's Oblivion and SSG who are very, very close to each other, and Temper are also in the area. So for now, Oblivion are saying, hey, we know we're safe for now. We don't want to take a battle. We've got 2 white armors. We've got Arcology, who's got even less than that at the moment. It might look blue, and it is blue. Your eyes don't deceive you, but there's no HP left in it.
あとないっしょ。オキシジンがこれどうなんだ。マジか。あ、違うじゃん。敵のパクタだけか。いいんだよ。
Three people playing Loba potentially for the support abilities. Of course, you can craft banner with Loba, or anyone from the team can craft banner if you have a Loba, but also the ability to get that black market down, get any extra loot in the late game or in the early game whenever you want to use it. So interesting to see which Loba teams we have, and maybe we'll see them as we go through. Is Dark Zero are going to be making their way to the northern side from the tunnel? They could potentially be the first team that Complexity has to deal with here.
Catalyst なしか。
And I'll tell you what, that is always a good thing to find. The 2 to 4 for that 30-30 repeaters just gives you maximum range on that weapon to chip away at some shields and make sure that you're in a position to level the evos up, as we all know is the name of the game for a lot of these squads, especially if they can get an early good spot. Speaking of which, SSG might think they've got a pretty good spot, as they're hoping that this might pull down towards
まあファイト構成だね。
they don't have a ring console that they can hit for now.
おっと LG 突っ込まれてる。あー LG そんな突っ込まれるの。 さあ、しかし、倒しきた。
Yeah, they should be able to get back up. It doesn't look like anyone's going to be jumping on them, so they're going to be absolutely fine. Look at the white armors. I mean, even blues as well. All these teams have moved so fast because even if you don't have a ring console, I think this circle is one of the more predictable ones with it holding the northern tip as much as it does. So a lot of teams have moved as quickly as they can just to try and get a building. We saw in the match 3 we had like 18 teams left going into zone 3, so people are playing pretty slow. People are playing a little bit more zone heavy in this lobby at the moment. That could change in World's Edge, but typically World's Edge is usually more zone heavy than Storm Point at times, so maybe we'll even see more when it comes down to it. But 19 squads at the moment. Team Cream, the only team that's been eliminated.
Yeah, FaZe are down to just 2 as well, and Snipe Down and Pandas having to back right up there as Zero Tricky will be going down. Interesting to see what their next play is going to be. I'm trying to look around and see if there is any way that they might be able to craft a banner to get Zero Tricky back in, but I've got to be honest with you, it doesn't really look like there's many options for them. So if they do want to do this, they're going to have to go a long way out of zone to try and get their teammate back into this game. Team Skirt are going to be able to play some Apex Legends, by the way, which is good news for them. Albrelli is going to be moving off the Revenant onto the Horizon by the looks of things. So we were fed false information, everybody. We have to apologize publicly for that, but we do, more importantly, get to see them play so that we can actually confirm that that is the case.
Yeah, I think it was World's Edge last time where we saw Skirt pick up a top 3 as well to give them a decent amount of points in the lobby. Same can be said for FaZe. I think FaZe took a 2nd place on World's Edge. So both teams who have been struggling a little bit in their contests are now going to have the opportunity to okay, FaZe have lost one, but they still might be able to be getting themselves into the later game and potentially they can get that banner back. We'll have to see. All right, so don't have ring console information.
エバクの世界だとあんまり活躍できてないから減った。逆にエイパックスハウスがね増えたからな、強くて。さあモル売りだね上。ダークゼロ、これはモロタか、モロタアンチ。エイパックノスだってファイナルだ一番成績点何位だったか忘れてたけど9位とか何位だったっけ、今のリジェクトが。そもそも上がれてないもんね決勝に。日本チームなんてこの間だってあるじゃん、パルブレックスの3人だけだったからね、唯一上がれたのが決勝に。
distance on this travel through the skies before they do try and do anything. I was interested to see if they were actually going to go into Monument and hit the third beacon information, but I think from where they can see at the moment, they're pretty comfortable on where they believe it's going to be going. Is for them, it's not about priorities.
まあ確かに8枠あってよかったねって感じだね。成績の割には決勝は良くなかったね。てか上がれてなかったからそもそも。
North to south rotates on Storm Point, where it's very similar, where they had to move in late, adapt to wherever that zone was pulling, and it did work out for them at times. As we get our first caustic of the lobby, we saw this in EMEA as well. We saw one caustic and it was very successful as well. So we'll have to see whether DNO can find equal success.
Shout out to Cybercats, team over in EMEA, who did do some good work today with caustic in their composition, proved that it is still viable. Oblivion now playing the bridge position here, just to the south of Climatizer. FaZe, I believe, have managed to get back to a full 3 here, so they collected that banner and they were able to get a respawn and get Zero Tricky back in. So FaZe are going to be maybe in a position where they might be looking at Oblivion in quite some time. DNO Gaming is still continuing their rotation as well as we take our attention back towards the height which is surrounding Epicenter for now. You can see the temper on that bridge. That's all of the teams who are trying to kind of duke at each other at the moment. You saw FaZe
あれか、リアライズとリアライズ、パルブ、エンターフォースか、3チームだけだ、エイパックノース。上がったのが 9チームだっけ、その時9分の3かな、上がったのが。多分地域的に言ったら2番目かな。 SA が SA0 だっけ、1チームだけか。サウスアメリカが5分の1だった気がする、上がったのが。で次は NA かな、 NA じゃなくて A パックノース。
and really can make a difference in those
で、
late
次、
games.
イ
So
ー
I have to say that it could be the same here in North America as it was
で
in EMEA.
NA サウスかな、どうだったかな。サウスの方が高かったかな。サウスがブラックハウンド、ブラックハンドか。アイロンブラッド、モイスト、MDY、そうだね、5分の4上がってんだよ、確か。エーパックサウスが。めっちゃ強かったんだよね。エーパックサウスが一番決勝率高い。チーム数少ないのに。ってところでエーパックサウス強いんだよ、この野郎って言ったら枠が増えた。まあ SA は弱かったね、正直。1チームしか上がれなかったのと、決勝もやっぱりめっちゃ叩かれたじゃん、なんかTS は勝った時かな、チャンピオン。その試合なんかストッパーだったんだけども、コマ線の上からなんで降りなかったんだみたいな感じの批判がめちゃくちゃあった。で、春もなんか言ったもんね、なんかこいつらはダメだみたいな降りてこれのクソだみたいな言ってた気する、なんか変なこと。BGMer も減ったね。まあ NA は当然、サウスもまあ当然かな。強さ的に。サルブラチャンスだね、これは。いや、空爆は無理だ。空爆返す。ただ空爆入れたんで下がらせた。TSM! TSM! 誰かキル取った今。スイッチダンマンティック。ダンマティック。TSM! TSM! ボコしてるなんか Wi-Fi。あとバースティだけだ。上側だね。長官の上か。ダークゼロいたところかな、おそらく。ほぼほぼ。あそこらに今バースティのところはね、右上ね、ここら辺取ってるね。さあ、なんか刺した。あ、ローバーウルト8。ヘムロッククラフトするね。インペリアハルさん。さあ、ダークゼロが全てを支配しているこの男たち。激アツチャンス。ダークゼロ激アツなう。いつもいいとこいんな。さすがだね。いつもいいとこいるからこれ。あ、バーシーとかアペギャングか。もしやこれはダークゼロか。オーマイゴー。うわ負けた。勝ったー、奇跡だ。しかし玉が来る。TSM これはもうダメだ。いや無理だ、リピーターの数が多すぎる。いやーきちー。もう周りにパーティーがいんのにさ、ぶつかってくるやつがいて死んじゃったね。
But for Verholst, it's going to be a case of just trying to survive here. There is a potential that maybe there's enough gunfire that he could go back and get a res, albeit unlikely. Still a possibility to be considered. Never mind. Reps goes down.
ハルぶち切ったら、まあ今のはね、やばいよね、相手普通にこれ。相手がやばいわ。マジで。
Eyeballs. I think that is a saying which I've just created, but you get the point, everyone. Okay, put that on a T-shirt.
ぶつかったっけ、ほらとこなんでぶつかるんだよ。まあバカ突だね。バカ突だね。まあ TSM がもしかしたら、まあ、ダメージもらいすぎて起点作らせてしまったのかもしれないけども、まあこれはちょっとかわいそう、不幸にされたね、完全に。さあアルバこれ当たるしかないから当たるんだよな。これ当たる時間だよな。やっぱこのアンチを背負いながらってさ、もう蘇生ができなくなっちゃうからね、終わるんだよな。さあお互いこう、おっとー、取った プロ。しかしこれは当たるの遅すぎてこうなると。はい、お互い不幸。だからこれアンチ縛る前に当たんなきゃいけないんだよな、本当は。死んでもね、そこで戦闘負けたとしても当たんなきゃいけない。勝っても死ぬからどうせ3ポイントで終わり。フルヘルスは取ってきたの相手。ああ、そうなんだ。索敵できてなかったんじゃないかな。じゃあそもそもそこに TSM がいるってのは分かってなかったんじゃないかな。じゃあ分かんないけど、マジでもうやるしかねえってなっちゃったから、判断が分かんないな。これフェーズやべえ。後ろに行く。やばい、終わった。これ後ろ取られた。 EEC さあ99やってもったこれやってもった。10部隊もいるのこれ。さあ LG さあオキシジェンもちょっと残ってるよ。さあ TS もバース残ってる。まだエヴァ残ってるぞこれ1名。いやー、オキシジェン取った。オキシジェンって言ってた今。オキシジェンにするか。これ翻訳入れだ、翻訳。オキシジェンだね。ジェンですね。ダークゼロだ。しかし SSG にこれファイト仕掛けるのやだね。SSG は怖いよ。ファイターだからな。生粋のファイター。しかしアンチを明け渡すことによってそこで一旦とどまるよという作戦。こっち来んじゃねえよと。上位勢みんな残ってんな。6チームすごいな。スキャニングやばいです。オーマイガー。さあもう3部隊だった。いや取りにはいけないね。さあ SSG が若干孤立気味。オキシジェンまだあるぞこれ。うわー、これはダークゼロが最初に動かなきゃいけない。しかしリーズウィングマンがないな。もう11キルしてんの今。やば、無双状態じゃん。123さあ上位3チーム。いやーダークゼロは苦しいな。カタリストルトもないからねこれ。ちなみにだけどダークゼロは当たるしかないね。もうまあ空爆をオキシジェンに吐いて SSG に当たると思ったけど違うのか。そういくのか。そういくのか。まあ割り切りだとそうなるんだよ。割り切りだと多分 SSG に当たるんだよ。狭いしグレガッターやれるし。しかしこれ動かそうとしてるね。さあただこれ SSG 箱もあってグレもあったら最高だねこれ。ダークゼロはきつい。こっからどう勝つのかちょっと見たいね。もう 100% 無理100% 無理と言っていいほど無理だと思う。空爆とスモークなんとかするしかないね。ジェンバー店がまず裏側行きます。裏側行くのはオキシジェンの車線切るため。まあこうなるか普通にしょうがない。これは当たるしかない。さあダークゼロ死んだ。
This is about cleaning up the remaining parts of SSG, but remember they did have some shield swaps, but Reeds has got that.
おっと、意外と危ないぞ。ベインがやばい。普通に勝った。いつの間にか終わった。なんだこれ。さっきのゲストの人は NA 貼った黒人女性選手らしい。あ、そうなんだ。クソ適当じゃねえかよ。さあ2回目チャンピオン。さあもう一発決めるってボーナスポイントあるか。まあダークゼロもさすがにあれはもうやるしかなかったか。割り切り。
The ALGS championships last year, I think a lot of talk was about maybe being a dark horse to win the whole thing. It wasn't to be, but everybody had them on that kind of conversation loop and on that pedestal as a team who might be another one to break out in future. So I think Oxygen, this is what we expected to see from you, and this is what we wanted to see from you. And Dan, they're showing that this isn't a team who was a one-season wonder. This is a team of putting the work and are really showing they can be up there when it comes to the end of the season.
Yeah, great call from you. You mentioned it at the start of the show, how this could be a week to keep an eye on Oxygen. I'll allow you to take a quick break as I bring Stella back into the fray. Stella, I mean, Oxygen continue to be at the very top of our lobby and continue to impress us no matter what map they find themselves on.
I know, it's impressive. They really set themselves up for success there. I mean, either way, SSG or Dark Zero were bound to look at each other. And I mean, they kind of just knew Oxygen was going to win. They were in the superior positioning. Those train cars really don't give you much cover. And when you know that there's a team just looking down at you, getting pot shots, and you know it's kind of over. But they did the best that they could. And Oxygen has been great with positioning, especially in World's Edge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the fact they were able to force their way through zone and find themselves from the south side all the way to the north side, I think they'll be extremely happy with it being able to do that. But I think my concern was when they saw the two teams on that northern side, they were a little bit worried that maybe they were too late to the party. But the fact that Dark Zero got forced to the northwest, SSG doing so well with their opening damage to kind of force Dark Zero back, especially after Dark Zero had been doing that to every other team in the lobby prior, it just allowed Oxygen to kind of take that high ground and say, okay, we don't have to move first here. We know Dark Zero have to move first. Let's just be patient.
バカ突だ敵がいて、振られるところに突っ込むみたいな感じですよ。索敵もしないで、アホ突だね、アホ。割り切りはもうどうしようもねえから、とりあえずそこのキルポ取って終わり。罪。割り切りは罪だね。
Guess we just go forward, and there's not much you can do from there.
腹切れたんかな、ちょっと見てこようかな。インペルハルさん、どんくらい切れたのかちょっと見てこようかな。
because they just weren't able to get that
こ
rotation
の
early.
ね、
We
確
also
認
saw
して
that
や
there
ろ
was
う。キ
elevated
レ
in
具
front
合
of
を、
them
今日
riding
の、
on the edge of circle,
今日の
which
キレを見
inevitably
よう。
did have them eliminated from the match. So there's a lot of rotations
さっ
that
きの
people
正
have to
直
get
やばい。
on top of because
見てても
if you
やばい
don't
と
have
思
that
う。
ring console knowledge, it is kind of detrimental to you.
Yeah, and even though it's one of those circles that's a little bit more predictable without ring console knowledge, it's not a fun circle to play
めっちゃ切れてる。めっちゃ切れてる。
approach really too far from the south because fighting through epicenter, no one enjoys a lot of kind of open areas that you're gonna have to try and burst through if you don't have a catalyst to give you that
すごい切れてるよ。
If you run out of your ultimate, don't have your ultimate to use, then you are going to find yourself very vulnerable indeed. Small shout out to the teams who were able to rat their way to kind of higher placement.
晴らしてみるか。じゃあ晴らしてみるか。すーごい切れてた。いきなり。いきなり来てたね、今。ここにいきなり突っ込んできて、相手が。
They're pushing, they're pushing. I got it back. I'm dead to grenades, bro. He's one on me. Run out of him. Run, you gotta run. Just run and rat. Just fucking run. Right in that corner. Right, there's a corner there you can sit in.
Sitting.
Bro, what are these fucking teams doing, man?
I'm safe. I don't know where this team's at though.
Can you look and see if they're around you?
Yeah, you gotta look. There's no reason for you to just hide.
I got smoked. I'm dead. There's a full team behind that.
There's two teams over there. There's two teams. There's a southwest team. There's a team south. Like, you're fine for now. Yeah.
You have to just go late and walk along the edge of gas.
They should evac if they're not fucking stupid behind you. They should evac.
なんで来たんだろうね、これ。まあいいでしょう。さあ、オキシジェン、6ダッチポイント !SS42、ダークダ38。さあ、TSM6 位か。まあ1位は無理だな、今日。あと2試合でしょ。まあ。まあ3位いけたらいいかなぐらいですかね。まあ2位までワンチャンあるからぐらい。1位は無理だな。まあ2連チャンピオンかましてワンチャンぐらいか。アルブラが1ポイントだまだ。
A victory could change everything for you and could really elevate you into a position where you can start to look down on those who are going to be in that chasing pack. 2 games remaining, so there is certainly still an opportunity for some of these squads to make a name for themselves. It's starting to look a little bit dire for the likes of Skirt and the likes of FaZe down at the bottom, but if they can get it going in matches 5 and 6, there is still a chance they can push themselves into not just the top 10, but you can still think about top 5 here. It is definitely doable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even LG on the second page of that roster, I mean, I think they can still make it up as well. They've been having, I think you said it, they've been having a quieter game today, and I don't know what's going on. It could be something, you know, maybe not cohesive with the team today. It could be a lot of different things, but I'm curious. I want to pick your brain on what you think could be going through their heads right now.
Honestly, with a battle royale, sometimes it is just going to come down to, did you get a ring console? Did the zone pull your way? How's the weather? Apparently is going to affect us today.
Good.
It's just one of those days, it seems like, for LG. But again, as I say, with matches 5 and 6 still around the corner, it's not the end of the world. The lobby is close enough in the mid game or the mid table that they can still make a name for themselves. They can still push their way in. So I would just put it down to, you know, a couple of bad zones, maybe a bad call here or there. It's tough to say without actually seeing from their point of view. But if anyone can come back in and show us what they're made of in the late game, we know it's LG. They always do it.
Absolutely. I was actually looking back at my notes, and yeah, the zone pulls today have been pretty rough. I mean, I think we did see a few of the players talking about, oh, there's scrim circles, so it's a little rough.
REVIZE とベイン。ベインはキーマウルめっちゃ強い人だね。REVIZEはわかんないけど、あんまり。
Which is difficult, but that's why they're pro players, right? So hopefully
ランクとかもくそ強かったよ。
Hopefully it isn't rough. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the next match ready for you.
Next match. ちょっと一旦切りますね。オプティックがどうなんだろうね。前も次の優勝はオキシジェンって期待されてましたね。あ、そうなんだ。オキシジェン強いよ。まあ、そんなにクソ有名な人ではないけどさ。3人とも。強いね、ここは。ベインはキーマウでなんか結構プルプルエイムだけども、かなり強い。鬼強いね。アーカイブとか結構残ってるから見てくるといいかもしんない。気になる人は。ベインが今22歳か。若いな。動画全然上げてないな。配信だけしてるのかな。96人か、今。視聴者。まあ、強い悪いって感じだね。まあ、成績がそんなにまだ出てないかな。どうなんだろう。まあでも ALGS スプリット2 2023プレイオフ3位。意外とある。まあでも優勝とかしないと目立たないもんな。ああ、でも、ベイン自体は AGS の2021年チャンピオンシップ優勝してるね。どこのチームだ、これ。あ、カンガーナ NA ってとこだ。ちょっと知らねえな。チームがわからねえ。ブチ入れてもらった。いや、ブチ入れでしょ。だって、俺らが見ても明らかにやばいじゃん。あんなところで交戦したらギョフラに決まってんじゃんっていう。 だってダウンも入れないで突っ込んできていかないで、やばいよ、普通に。おかしいよ。チャンス作ってから行くだったらわかるけども、そうじゃないからな。適当に突っ込んできたね、ガチであれは。狭そうだからやれそうとかさ、ホライゾンのルートでやれそうっていう、ただ、甘っちょろい考えで突っ込んでただけだと思うよ、俺。あと、カタールド使ってたじゃん、そのスマスコで相手。カタールド使ってたらさ、もう移動できないからね。まあ、ダッシュタワー使えばワンチャンだけど。取っとかないんだねっていう。だからその先のこと考えてないんじゃないかな、そもそも。で、こいつら倒しました。移動どうしますかとか。ダッシュタワーで、ダッシュタワーで多分飛びますって感じでしょ、どうせ。
Four games down, 2 to go here in the ALGS in the North America region. The Pro League is certainly hotting up.
アスキューリー、オムと一緒に優勝してる。あ、その時のメンバーか、これ。
You mentioned it in EMEA. The top team, Oxygen, have kind of separated themselves a little bit, but for the rest of the lobby, it's so close that things could change in just one match.
あ、26ポイント。
Continue to separate themselves with games like that. 14 kills alongside the
14
victory
kills.
is going to create a gap. No matter how well anyone else is performing.
振られて考えないんじゃないないんじゃない多分索敵してないから別の舞台見えてないから行っちゃったと思うよ。だから、あ、こいつらしかいねえじゃん。行ったろみたいな感じで思うよ。あ、来ちゃったみたいな感じじゃない？結構そういうの多いよ。プロでも。
Well, it's an opportunity to do so right now in match number 5. Only 2 to go, and we have flown through the matches today, and we're going to continue on World's Edge, of course, for these final 2 matches. And I'm looking
これでもやっぱさ、あ、いたのかみたいな結構あるよ。リアルに。
So far, day number 1 for them was, I would say, about as good as you could have expected, not only from a new team, but they were obviously splitting a POI in that game day number 1. Game day number 2 was a concern for me because they really did fall off a little bit, and now I'm looking at these last 2 games as how we're kind of going to judge this phase lineup, right? Because it's been slow so far. There hasn't been too many good moments for them outside of maybe winning that contesting game number 1. So now is a chance for them to shine, and they need to because the points, they're still there to be picked up. And if they can, then all of a sudden, a bit of a shaky and bad looking day can turn into a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think the match 5 has to be a good one here for FaZe. The same could be said for Skirt after the troubles that they found themselves in, let's put it that way.
アルグラレブランドガチピックなんだね、これね。クリームもレバーだ。
We did think that we had another Revenant. I don't know if I'm going to believe it. Maybe
ダークゼロは、あ、ダークゼロバラハやめたね。最終のあれ見たらもうブラハがあんまり役立たなかったもんね。カタリスの壁でさ、状況変えてチャンピオン取れたかもしれないしな。ダークゼロだったら。その可能性なくなってたもんね。まあ戦闘力落ちるけど、片壁で勝ちに行った方が無難だね。
Pretty good dropship. You can see straight down the middle of World's Edge here. Started off on the southern side, so a little bit of an advantage for those on their loop path and how quickly they can start their
何時なんだろう。15時間ぐらいだっけ時差。あ、夜っぽいね、向こうじゃ。ビジーさん、サブスク26ヶ月目最高おはようございます。おはようございます。私です。いや
to work with. LG are going to have one at Lava
Fisher.
So Lava Fisher and Countdown both have them. Even dropping
gaming
at
Landslide.
So a lot of the kind of more
どこだろうね。ハベになるかサカになるとか。うわ、右上ピアンチないから。どうなのこれ。上がマジ夜もあるけども。下に戻るも全然あるね。右はないだろうな。上、左、下のどれからね。
Yeah, this could be pulling up towards the hill.
ここら辺ちょっとこれ読みづらいねかなり。超読みづらい。 上もあるけどね、怪しいね、結構。エピセンは絶対ないんだよ。で、右もないね。まあ、ここまで。なるほど、左戻せだな。左戻せる感じ。予想。NH が PM6 時スタートだな。めっちゃ環境いいじゃん。めちゃくちゃ環境いいじゃん。夜って。
Yeah, I think it's going to be another difficult one because, as I mentioned in the post game, rotating through epicenter isn't enjoyable for anybody except maybe the team that has some high ground to work with. There's just so many ups and downs, so many difficult fights that you have to take, a lot of open ground as well that you'll find yourself in when you think you're safe and you slide around a corner and there's a team just waiting for you because everyone has enough playable area where they can kind of be in a congested space, not really enough playable area to do anything with. So it's going to be another frustrating one, I'd say, for those who are rotating a little bit later.
Oh my goodness. I think the Lord used that balloon, by the way, to see what SSG were doing. I think he could see that they hit a
めっちゃ下がんじゃん。あそこでキープよかった気がするけど、行くんだな、こっちまで。まあ、コンジというから、クラフトでなんとかなりそうだけど。イージーキル。
What might have been a little bit of a 200 IQ play has ended up kind of putting his team on the back foot here.
And I'm all for, you know, taking risks, trying to gain information, but, you know, sometimes you want to take a risk and you gotta be that is a freebie for SSG, and they'll be delighted.
イーミアもイギリス時間 PM6 時なの。ひどっ。何なんだろうね。事故だね。ちょっとルーが。
And is going to punish you if you do make any sort of step out of
分かってなかったっぽいのかな。なんだろう。
Work as a two, all work to try and get that third player back on their feet as everyone now is starting to head heavily towards epicenter. It's already clogged up like a block drain, and someone's gonna have to try and unplug it.
Wondered how you're going to finish
TSM!
I have to say. Anyway, TSM, they're going to be taking a much different approach to things. They're going to be moving through the vault tunnel at the moment. On the Geyser side of things, they're going to be
右今落としたから行きたくないね。
So of all the teams, I think that you want to
あれ、おっと、大丈夫か。
If you phase right now, TSM are probably
足より復活。
complexity though somehow got Lou back into it.
さあ、外側にウルトしすぎて撃たれちゃったぞ。諦めろ、建物は。語りそういいんだよ。マジで。さあ、イージーキル。あ、だからこう蘇生できたのか。熱。そこで死んだのか。ただ L 字来てるけども、これ取れない。
wants to have happen right now is for one of them to go down and be finished again because
語り捨てじゃない。語りも時間かかってしまいや。
used to get that respawn in and they're not going to be able to do that again quite as easily. LG though
強すぎる。肩壁が強い。まあパッシブのドア固めのクールタイムもうちょっと伸びるかもしれないね。弱体がするんだったら。早いんだよな、3秒、意外と。
Hark back to what we were saying at the start of this game, right? I don't think anyone is 100% convinced on where this zone is going to be playing. And again, look at that map overhead. I think that gives you a pretty good indication of exactly that. Zone 3 info might be vital to teams.
Yeah, so I wonder whether teams like Dark Zero might just wait and hit that ring console once more. GKS can do the same after going from Thermal up to staging. Skirt can do it at Harvester. And Optic can do the same thing at Geyser. So we are seeing, you know, our main edge teams here who probably would have the ability to do it anyway, but they're going to learn a lot of information which the teams who have already moved are not going to have access to. So that will give them the opportunity to potentially dive in late and find playable space of where maybe someone hasn't predicted if the zone pulls in as well.
なんかゴッドファイト始まってねこれ。やるのこれ。
The ring console it always feels on this central platform in Monument. They're going to have a line of sight onto it.
そっちはね弱いっすね今。本日とはいいよ。さあマルグレイ。これロックだね。出てきたのもあ肩壁かだったらこれは意外とさあロックしてる落としきるか残念
It's going to be a bit sticky if either of these teams do decide to send it on one another, because TSM also just around the corner. At the moment, they're just in a building, but Native have to be aware of that and shouldn't try and commit too heavily. A Dark Veil was to be used just to try and stay alive. But I do wonder whether maybe Skirt could play a part. I'm just watching the map overhead, and Skirt didn't stay towards Harvester. Instead, they started to move into Fragment. Potentially, they are thinking about this ring console at Monument, like the other few squads are as well. And now is your opportunity. Now is your chance to start getting those ring consoles if you had them available to you. Optic definitely are doing so. As you can see, overhead, Dark Zero chose not to, and GKS will be able to as well at Harvester. And Oxygen can do it at Landslide.
Yeah, it does look like the Hill
Houseが強そうだね。
north side is going to be prime position, and that's where SSG picked up that first kill onto complexity, and that's where they received this game. So an opportunity for SSG, who are in second place overall.
だから一回は戦闘発生するからな。橋側が結構押してくるからね、いつもあの家。
managed to establish, so a big opportunity for SSG, of course, playing under the SSG banner. If you're watching for the first game today and you're wondering who's SSG, former PL.
TSM フラグメタってきたんか。
SSG, simple.
And I mean, it makes sense for SSG, right? You pick up a team that has a former LAN champion on it. There's not too many of them.
おっと、チャンス落とした。さあ、大一だ。ただ、アルブラが邪魔してくるね、これね。あ、てか、これ、コンジットアビリティでさ、アーマー付与しといたらさ、耐えれるようになるのか。さらに、ダウンタイの体力も上がって、強すぎじゃね？やべえ、こいつら。すっごいですね、この裏舞台。
They were just a split second too late on the conduit queue. But TSM taking this fight. Let's jump into the comms and see what they're saying.
さあ、裏取り。お、VC だ。やーべえ。Inside. Come inside.
You need to play for res. You need to wall or play for res or something.
I'm walling for res.
They ran away. They ran away. They ran away. I'm playing res.
Yep.
Nice ball.
On both sides.
Dropping you armor, Jordan. Take this.
Yeah.
Right here.
Managed to get Reps back to his feet. The shot's coming in from distance, and that's something that's always.
もう終わった。もう VC 終わった。さあ、オキシジェン。さあ、1本ダウン取ってたけど、これは別のとこか。
TSM did do well to stabilize and make sure they are still going to be a full 3. Now, GKS, who were able to get that extra ring information.
アルブラの押し。突撃してきたね。
Being kind of shadowed by Oxygen, who again got that ring console information. So both thinking similar ways and similar plans of action right now. And I wonder if Oxygen could do the unthinkable and go back to back and find another victory, especially again in a very disadvantageous circle that they're still going to be able to try and find their way through. It's very early doors though. They did well in the previous game. We'll have to see whether they can find the same kind of success here in match 5.
おっと、ダークゼロが DIG 粉砕してるぞ。でもまだ20代のやば。
Oh, okay.
As long as it's above 50%. So the fourth win, you would then get a bonus.
これが大会。
Every win after, you would get a bonus point as well.
Good, thank goodness you're here when it comes to maths. Honestly, I know I say it a lot, but I am thick as two planks.
NA もスクリームは結構減り早いからな。
Hey, there's always a 1% chance I could be wrong as well.
外ムーブと中ムーブがどのようなメリットで見ると、中ムーブは、てか、このゲームの性質上、アンチ傾向結構わかるんだよね、最終アンチとかは。だから中ムーブ入っておくことによって、まあアンチが寄って、ポイント稼ぎやすい。外ムーブは、物資が強いからファイトは有利になる感じ。だけど戦闘まず勝てるかわからない。戦闘地域を取れるかもしんない。アンチが詰まって、アンチが詰まってて入れないっていうデメリットがあるね、結構。あとファイト力に関して言うと、プロは結構強いから、そもそもやっぱり勝てるかわかんないですね。物資がどんだけ良くても。
teams to start to try and catch up with the lobby leaders now with them being eliminated so early, especially a team like Dark Zero who isn't
って感じじゃないですかね。だから外ムーブ基本的に勝てないよこのゲーム。
close that gap and then some. Now LG
今まで優勝してきたチーム、どうだろうね。もうみんな仲間部じゃない。過去のエイパクノースの話で言うと、今のリアライズじゃなくて、エリジェクトメンバーがキルムーブしてた時代はあったけども、今は無理だね、キルムーブ。あの時はね、下がったから、単純に。韓国勢と日本勢でもう圧倒的な下がったから、ファイトしてたら勝てるっていう時代だったけども、今はもう無理だね。パッドも超増えたし、打ち合い勝てないからな、韓国勢も。普通に負けるもん。あの時代みんなキーマーだったからね。韓国勢が単純にキーマーの連動が違ったし、連携も圧倒的だったけど、今は無理っすね。韓国勢もやっぱワンマーされちゃったりするしな。みんなファイト力も高いし。SSG はね、PPL のメンバーですね。なんだっけ、ザイニュ、ゼラ、パンダーズ。
Did they spot out the team below them? Did he even see them there?
I hope he did.
I'm not sure he did. Maybe.
In all honesty, I hope he did.
アルブラさんだか。パンダーズじゃねえか、誰だっけ。ポニーか。パンダーズはフェーズだ。
FaZe just so hell-bent on, I think, avoiding damage and worrying about the teams that were potentially north of them that they didn't.
バット最強取り組む人は誰？ライカ。誰だなとね。ライカ。ライカ。あと誰？わかんね誰だろうね。最強。最強って誰だ？ライカ。ライカしか出ない。ライカしか出ない。あ、三宅いいね、確かに。三宅強いけどね、誰だろうなとね、わかんねえわ。さあ、レアさん基地、なんかすごいことがしてんな。さあ、ネイティブシンターさ、TSM。16部隊 TSM ワンチャン入ってんのか。あ、左寄った。左寄りましたね。右寄り切らないか。終わるとダークでは確か左側にいたはずなんだよな。あ、ダークセル変なとこいる。ダークセルスーパーキスのとこいけよ。これはやばくね。超減るぞこれ。ガタリってんだこれ、やべえ。フェーズいいしボコしてる。これがゼロトリッキー。これがフューリア元。死んだ。いやー、これはきついね。誰だあいつら。ラッパーとアペギャングだ。ドークゼロ、これ神だ。いいとこいる。あれジェンバってブラハじゃん。なんだよ、バグってたんかさっきのピックのやつ。次のやつ入ってるし。待って、一番強くねえかダークゼロこれ。やべえ。神ポジ、これチャンピオンポジです。風船のところのやつぶっ殺さないとこ邪魔だね。これチャンピオンポジだね。うわー、マジか。ダークゼロだなこれは。さあ、これだけ倒せば勝ち。これ勝った方がチャンピオンです。さあ、ただ、いやーっと、サイクズが死んだ。
I mean, that's the one thing, right? Dark Zero just had a fight, and you would imagine they used a lot of utility in that fight. Sykes is going to go down.
これは GKS だけこいつら。誰だったか忘れてたけど。
Such a treacherous zone for everyone to have to play. You quite rightly, brilliantly put it. There's playable spots, but there is no comfortable spot for anyone at the moment, and Dark Zero is showing just that.
Yeah, and it becomes even worse as you get further into this next circle because there is literally nowhere to hide for some of these squads if they are forced out into open area. Dark Zero still a 2 though, still fighting, still pressing, and still a big threat in this lobby regardless. LG struggling, SSG
これはもう無理だ。
and we're down to 7 squads now as Elevate. I
エレベーターを誰か止めてくれ。
Dark Zero's remaining squad.
Yeah, Joe Burton's going to go down. Zero is going to be left on his own, and you would imagine they would swing.
さあ LG も辛い。あ、いいね、上のやつ。なんだっけ、この人の名前。
And looking down on the team who are trying to cross below them at the moment, but there's someone very close
Funk
to them
か
as well.
ファンク。
LG who are two white armors and a blue. I think when they started this game, well now they've got two red and
Sweet.
purple. Things are looking up.
あ、LG は
for LG when it comes to
なんとかなん
shields.
のか
Can they find KP off the back of this?
さあ覗く。
Slayer just
さあチャンスダメージ入れた。スレイヤーが死んじゃうこれ。大丈夫？
just absolutely shredding, and LG should be able to press this.
スレイヤーアンチダウンしそう。大丈夫か？大丈夫か？そんな失敗しない？スレイヤーならあるぞ。あー、ですげーですげー。ゼロゼロゼロ残ったねこれ。さあしおるこれをしゃ。
Complexity will fall as well. They're into the top 6.
Oh my god!
Trying to death ball the team behind these rocks. Funk's trying to back him up, but it looks like this will be.
LG のダークゼロも死んでる。ダークゼロ4位。もう上なんだよな、上ゲー。上ゲーだと思ったけど意外となんかあるかもしれない。カタリスト持っている。シュービーカタリスト。意外と近いなこれ。エレベート。
Yeah, we have to start looking at who has to move first, and likelihood is it's DNO who might be targeted, and if they're not targeted, then they have to make a decision of who do they try and jump on.
この奥の上のやつが一番きつそうだな。
Have to be careful if you elevate here. You don't want to invite any sort of pressure. Just wait.
いや、いいグレだ。いや、しかしこれは使い切ってしまったグレを。まあ、足止めね、使った感じかな。どうだろうな。いや、どっちらかというときついな、これ。D のがやばいね、これ。D のこれ当たるしかないね。うん。GKS 多分手前で耐久してりゃいいね、これ正直。カツララの手前。片壁焚いて。で、終わりだ。で、D のに関してはこれ空爆入れて動かせばいいから、そしたら勝手に当たってくれるよ。終わりだ、それで。それで終わりだ。で、ガスルート、ガソリンだけど、ガスルートだったらこれ、エレベートにさ、ガスルートぶん投げて戦闘だよ。あ、いったね。ガスルートない。なんか面白い構成してんな。ガスオジ入れんの今。死んだ。おーっと、ワンダーこれはギョフトリー !2 ダウンか !2 ダウンしてるさあ、GK さすがにこれはもう傍観ですね、1人。まあ、これはさすがに GK です。終わりだ。ほぼしそう。ほぼしそう。シコロクファミリーか。まあこれはイージーウィンだね。まあ上取り来たチームの勝ちだったね。ダークズルか GKS。これで伸ばせなかったからダークゼルと T ズム、これでもうオキシジェンがほぼほぼ1位じゃないか、もう。オキシジェンもそんなに稼いでないですけど。
Shoo shoo, we're done.
Come back, please, Dan. I need you. I can't count.
Yes, yes.
TSM のメンバー知らないのかい？
These matches have been
インペリアハルとエヴァンと
they're also a little bit heartbreaking to see the circles pull and see teams struggling to get there.
今だからどこいいです？オキシジェンですね、はい。はい、かさつき地域とかなんすかね。役割だっていうしな。別にいいんじゃん、それで。
Anyone's move there was definitely going to be their last, and GKS just swept in and cleaned up the pieces.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, EA, from the position they were in, they had a good spot, but when DNO decided that they were just going to try and fight for second, they won that fight having had the first player go down. So I think they'll be pretty happy, actually, to get the extra KP and secure second place. It was a very simple, of course, job for GKS at the end of it just to clean the final pieces up, but that zone is tough. That is a really tough zone, and we've seen a few of them so far today that have just pulled out into the open ground where you're looking at a composition that you'd pick maybe in an open
ライカは IGL できるじゃん。
something like that, but it's just you can't predict these
あ、GKS が7、キル19、エレベートは19、はいはいはい。LG11。ダークでは13か。めちゃ取ってた。ダークでは次次第でワンチャンあるな。1位。オキシジェンがマジでこけたらワンチャンぐらい。ライカーオーダーできるじゃん。パッとでオーダーして火力があるじゃん。っていうところでまずは優遇されるよね。そういった意味でピノタもそうかもしれないけども、まあライカーの方が若干上な気がするね、やっぱり。オーダー的な意味で言ったら。
They did brilliantly to navigate their way all the way through to that end game. Dark Zero the same. They played the height for quite some time. They were able to rack up a few KP, but in the end game,
あと2人誰にするかだよ。何がいい？火力枠だったら別に単純に強いやつ。宮系とあと誰か入れりゃいいし。海ちゃんハンバードリル。さつき。どんなでいいの？パッとって難しいよな、選ぶの。マジで。だいたい一緒なんだもん。火力あるは大前提だしな。差が悪かったらしいよな。海ちゃんハンマードリル、さつき、宮系。差があるかわからない。そうだとキャラが使える人の方がいいよな。キャラピック広い人。
GKS, huge game. And you look at the damage, 7 kills, 8 assists, you got 1.8k and 1.29k coming in respectively from Chaotic and Sorcerer. Really, really big output from them, but I just, again, I think Elevate...
もういいね。まあちょっとキャラがどんくらい使えるかちょっとわかんないけども。ピック広いのは誰だろうな。ハンマードリル、サツキあたりじゃないやっぱり。宮家はちょっとわかんないな、どんくらい使えるか。IGL3 人とかなんだろうね。軽くないパックプロ。いるじゃない。おっと、ダークゼロこれワンチャンあるな。TS の34か。4位がもう14ポイント差か。きついな。5位が精一杯のやつ。
But we do get to see the series results overall right now, and it's Oxygen Esports at top with 68 total points, and Dark Zero close behind with 51. And hey, your favorite SSG just 1 point off for being in second place.
Yeah, very good performances, and I will say that Oxygen Esports 0-point game, I believe it was, if my memory serves me right. Again, please come back down to remind me of the numbers. Oxygen Esports, by getting 0 points, has kind of opened things up.
ハンドリング、そう意外と使えるよ。キャラ。結構やばいよ。火力あって意外とピックプール広い。
Even though maybe before this game we were saying Oxygen had done enough to maybe take home first place this week, now it's completely wide open as to who might take that first place home.
Yeah, it just shows you how much power missing one game it can be for a team, and it's incredible. What I'm really excited to see how Game 6 is going to pan out for us. But first, if you think you have what it takes to get into ALGS, don't worry. Challenger Circuit number 2 registration opens February 5th. Unfortunately, Challenger Circuit Split 1 did start yesterday, February 3rd for North America. So, just to remind you of the teams that did make it out of that, we do have GKS and Elevate. GKS and Elevate as part of the challengers from qualifiers. So very excited to see what new teams we may see out of that. And really excited, but hopefully the circles aren't as rough for challengers.
Hey, look, you got to play every single circle. You can't have ones that are pulling towards your POI where you got ring console and the center of the zone to play from. It's all about adaptability.
That is true, and I think I do love that about Apex, just the fact that the RNG can be all over the place. It really makes you test your game knowledge and your rotation knowledge, and it really does come down to just, are we able to fight through all of this lobby?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can. I mean, looking at Oxygen.
Yeah, I mean, Oxygen have proved that they've been up there today, but there's still a lot to play for. They might not be first place come the end of the game.
Yeah, best of luck to them. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, match number 6, the final one, we'll be ready.
ファイナルワン。ちょっと音消すね。宮系はわかんないな。火力は圧倒的なけどね。火力最強。 アルブラ2回出てきた。
Today, Amir was amazing. North America, no surprise,
9番パットだよ。
just as good as well. And the bad news is we've only got one game left, but the good news is we've still got one
ベ
game
ン
left.
チ4選手、ドリームチームスペシャル誰選びますか？わかんねえ、誰だろうね、強えの。インペリアハル0。で、待ってね、いいんじゃない？
If I give you an answer because you shooed me away again and then you said I had to come back, but you did good math there. We have one game left. You are correct. Who do I think's gonna win it though? I'm feeling an SSG victory. I said it earlier. I think that SSG are due another one here, so we'll see whether that happens.
I did shoot you away, but I will say that I begged for you to come back almost immediately.
Instantly, yeah.
Having realized there was mathematics to be
If it makes you feel any better, I never left. I was always here in spirit. I didn't move out of my seat.
次ラストか。
I just wanted to get into the next game and
意外と進行早いぞ、
let's see
今日。
what happens. We've had Oxygen going back to back and putting 2 victories on the board, and they are our lobby
さあ、オ
leaders
キシジェンもう一発チャンプだったらプラス1。
Slightly earlier exit in match 5 or a much
ラス
earlier
めっちゃ
exit
強
in
かったよ。
match 5 has opened up the window potentially
トクシック対決見たいね。
to catch them here.
Keep your eyes on Dark Zero here, everybody. It's the kind of match they love. When the pressure is on match 6 is when they start to come to life and they are within striking distance. For the likes of TSM, maybe the gap is a little bit too big, but a big win in game number 6 should certainly throw themselves up the leaderboards a little bit more as well. This is the kind of game that you hope is going to be set up ahead of your final game of the day. Everything's still
誰勝つのこれ？
could change. We don't know who's going to win this thing, so let's find out.
Yeah, this is gonna be a big opportunity for some of these teams in the mid-table situation to make something of themselves in this match day. Put a big performance down. Circle is going
さあ、
to
オキシジェンは中継。
Of course, we've had 2 very similar circles so far, which has been pretty treacherous.
現在68ポイント。ダークゼロとは17ポイント差、余裕だね。だいぶ余裕あるね。3アンチも近いアンチ入って終わりだ。おっ、チャレ取らないの？チャレ入ってないね。ホービーエボ。8系、8系。ダークゼロも地形。TS は微妙なところは際から入るしかないね。でも際から入ると言ってもここら辺ちゃんと押していけば取れるね。ランスラー押しは無理だね、正直。俺の中では。ランスラー押しするチームは大体死ぬ。あとホライゾンいないと詰めれないから。まあないっすね。フラグメントからかな。俺ならね。いや、でもあれだな。こっちも、このルートも結構行きやすいね。左かも、中継からでもいいな。中継から。
Yep, LG also had one at Lava Fisher, so they're going to have that information. Elevate, can they win? They are 20 points behind first place. If Oxygen were to be eliminated and Elevate were to win with 8+ kills, doable, all right? There is a chance. And I'm going to say outside of complexity, SSG, Dark Zero, very unlikely. Maybe nearly impossible. So those are the 3 teams we're going to keep an eye on to try and take a victory here today.
運が悪かった。正直運が悪い試合あったしな。アーマースアップして勝った試合が、浜の浜崎のジップラインのが目の前のせいでアーマー拾って死んだからな。マジで。あれほどクソな試合なかったな。すごい試合だった、あれは。今でも覚えてるよ、俺は。スカイフックの勝ちアンチだったんだよ。最後ワンはアーマー拾えなかったんだよ。レースボックスからジップラインが目の前にあったせいでジップライン乗ってたんだよ。で死んだ。で死んだ。怪しいよ、エル。移動早くなってんな、俺。アルブラカタリスだってる。普通の構成になってんじゃん。結局使えなかったんだな。結局スクリームと大会でもう全然違うからな。セル 1？ 何してるのこの人。拾えなかったんか。
If you've got somewhere to play, you can definitely work with it. It might not be a game-winning play, so you may have to start thinking about where you can go afterwards and how you're actually going to win from that position.
I tell you what,
さあ、弓。金スコまでできた。なんだこのクソゲー。ケアパケの金スコなくせ。弓と金スコ出んのこれ。強すぎじゃね？マジかよ。
You can see a little bit of vault action. It's almost as if I forget they exist sometimes.
Honestly, I love the bow check.
オートパイロン2つどうなんだろうね。わかんねえ。正直回復は間に合ってるからな、ほとんどの人。あとランクだといらないからな、バトは。弱い。パイのお札時計だって別に使わない気するけどね。
In this vault area, and any team is going to be potentially obliterated if they walk into the unknown here.
So a great spot for Elevate, looking elsewhere. Trying to see what Oxygen Esports are doing. If you're talking about vault tunnels,
Realizeはっしょい。
you're wondering where that is, that's the one that's just to the north of Harbour.
占領した。
Bookending where this second zone is showing us is going to be two teams who are in the race to maybe take away first place today. Landslide, you can see up on the top of that.
おっと、ファイトしてる GG。GG これ負けたら結構順位やばいんじゃない？ああ、逃げていく。金スコじゃなくしていいよ。いらない。競技性を求めならなくすべきだね。やべえ。
Even with Klein taking that amount of damage, they should be safe here, but they are slowly just trying to find a better playable area with where they are, but also maybe even considering, do we try and take this fight if we can get the jump on someone?
Well, you do have ring console information, so they're going to be they know they're going to be safe in their position for at least the next couple of zones. And they can hold out, like you say, a lot of teams who try and move through fragment, which is a safer way to.
いや、その今もうプロリーグに上がること自体がもう難しいから、まあ厳しいね。
Comes Optic Gaming, who again, quiet. This is the Optic Gaming team we were a fight away from.
英語でしょ。あと2回でしょ。もう多分両方勝ちで1位取るレベルじゃないと上がれないんじゃない？
We spoke about why that might be at the top of the show with ring consoles changing in their POI that they were dropping at, but also they just
まあもう入れ替え戦にまあ落ちそうだね。リアライズに関しては超厳しい。決勝すらもういけない。今の状態だと。
I guess that's the goal, right? Everyone just wants to get to playoffs. You don't have to be.
おっと、Dark Zero?
As long as you get there. Well, this is Dark Zero, and this is versus Elevate. So now we are seeing some real action take place, and Dark Zero are trying to force this.
これ仕掛けんの？ Dark Zero。えぐくね？まあスカイフックはね一応いないというところで行ったのかな。挟まれない。挟まれるの向こうだからな。そう、調査ベーコン今あったからそれ読んで確認したね的な位置で、後ろはいないっていうところ。さあ TSM どこ行った？いやー、すげえ右なんだね。クラフトしに行くんだね、これ。へえ。まあ、クラフトしに行って、もうフラグメントが入るんだね。なるほど。モニュメントか。あとは第3アンチしっかり読んで、そこら辺をちゃんと取ろうっていう感じだと思う。第3アンチ読むんだね、結構。確かに第3はマジ読んだ方がいいな。アンチと多かったら。かなり大事だね。いいムーブだ。
Got my first Final Fantasy 7 reference in today.
He's begun again, everyone. At least we got to match 12 today, technically, before he got his first one out. But at least he managed to sneak it in for all you Final Fantasy fans.
I think we should go here.
Sometimes I surprise myself with how much of a nerd I actually am. Anyway, Oblivion trying to take this fight. L-Star. Not going to have a mag on it, but we know it does some output of damage even without that. Now they're trying to move in to clean up a few of these pieces. Great spray coming in from the arm line, but Arcology's going to have to move around the knockdown shield.
L スターキャラコン。さあ一旦が切るポイントです。ソーゼンとしょテンプルを追った。 さあ、漁夫が来るんですよ。GG。さあ、GG、これ美味しい。オブリビオン今日初めて映ったんじゃね？リアルに。オブリビオン視点。あ、そんな感じだ。上からの視点は映ってたけども、映ってなかったんじゃないけど、一回も見てないけど、多分。なんかワットソンのフェンス固めてんなってのをストップで見て、それ以来見てない気する。上からの視点で。かぶられてる。まあしょうがないよな、正直。そういうもんだよ。みんな知ってるチーム映した方がやっぱ面白いもんな。T7 ダークゼロ、AvsBとか。俺はそう思う。俺はそう思う。俺が運営でもそうするわ。デスボの形変えられるよ今。FF の課金してれば3万円。もう終わったけどイベント知らなかったか。
In the more difficult position, playing from low ground here, trying to take a team off the top is never fun. But look at Native.
フェーズがすげえ打たれてるから。公共しょうがない。
But FaZe do want to fight this. You can see they're not happy, they're not content. They know that they are under pressure and that a fight will change. Maybe their momentum going into the final moments of this last game if they can get there. But
さあ、風船出したけど、一気のもんだが。おお、ディーナさん面白いいるね。ここはまあ結構有名な人いるもんね、3人。まあ、クラスとセノックスはちょっと昔の人だけど、割と。ドゥープレックスは結構有名だね。さあ、T7! GG 粉砕3人。あれたインペラハル死んだ。隠れてる。クリーム。130。これタイマンで。しかし別来た。終わったー。エレベーターのなけネイティブだっけ。さあ、これはまあバスのとこいたからな、そもそも。セル1。T7 これは誰だ。あれオブリビオンじゃない。うわタイミングがさすがに負けねえ。じゃあ T7 これはもうやばいな。次で終わりだ。きつすぎる。入れないだろ。これ切られてるもんね絶対に。ラスタワーでこれは飛んで運ゲーだ。投射とか入ったらワンチャンぐらい。あれランパート部隊まだいいんじゃんちゃんと。さあ一旦押した。アップギャンランパー次も入ってんだけどランスだ。やべえ神ポジ来た。アペギャング神ポジ来ました。さあおっとヘバン残ってるけど切られた。死んだ。 T7 デッドです。さあ1位がオキシジェンもワンチャン入ってんね。これオキシジェンは1位確定でしょう。もうダークゼロが2位かな。Eternal are going to be forcing their way in from the west, but Skirt and Dark Zero not going to be too far behind. And some of these teams are going to be forced together in their rotate. And, you know, when you're crossing open space in Landslide, again, similar to Epicenter, there is cover available, but after you reach SSG まだいいのか。SSG51。まあ SSG ダークゼロ。あ、でもエレベーターも50か。意外と2争いあるね。まあ4位は変わらないか。4位以上の戦いって感じだね。さあいいし一旦バス。うわっといもうすんだ。もうすぐ来れば
Also, a team who could upset anyone right now is going to be Complexity. Why? Kraber in the hands of Monsoon.
Put some montage clips on the board. 4 bullets, plenty to work with. That could be 4 kills for Monsoon. It could be 4 knocks. Oxygen are going to be in a spot though to potentially, even if they don't win this game, right? If they can just get to like the last 5, they should be able to win this entire lobby and in the overall standings.
So Cream just got eliminated because Silent H&L was trying to rat his way inside and just exploded next to the frag grenade that was thrown by Phony, I believe it was.
こいつらいつ移動するの？まあ移動したら10日打たれるから無理。スモーク入れて行くしかないけど。
Look at SSG. Look at the position they currently hold.
SSG これ終わったくねえか？
They won't be in about 2 seconds when this circle starts to move in. Where do they go from here? You know, I predicted SSG in this last game, and I'm starting to wonder whether.
アペギャングに粉砕されそう。
As all these northern teams are going to have to move south. So Dark Veils, Evac Towers, whatever you've got to traverse this open ground, use it now.
Well, a really smart decision here from Monsoon. Doesn't connect with the shot, but just using that evac. It's not about rotation sometimes. It's about getting information. Just went halfway up and decided.
当たんない当たんない。モンセン。モンセン当てないと。
The shots aren't quite hitting for now, but one bullet can change everything, and he's only got 1 bullet left. Will it be a golden one?
あ。全部外しちゃった。やばい終わった。これ無理だ。空爆強え。俺 SSG は死んだ。SSG 死んだくさいなこれ。ダークゼロ残ってる。ただサイクスがいないな。あー、ダークゼロ2位確定だ。1、2もこれ固定だね。オキシジェンもワンチャンってるし、死なないだろ、さすがに。オキシジェン1位か。あと、オキシジェンがこれチャンピオンだったらプラス1ポイント。プレイスメント。あー、ジェンマテン。まあ、言うて死んでも多い。あれ ?GKS が上だったんだけど、何があったホライゾンか。ホライゾンアペギャングどこ行った？死んだ？あ、残ってるな。一応生きてるね、どっかで。削れそう。アペギャングどこ行ったん？あ、バス行ったんか。もう、次のやつ取ったんか。さあ、ダークゼロはゼロのみと。ガス落ちだー！さあ、オキシジェンはこれは悠々と順位伸ばすだけだ。1位だ。They've got the catalyst to help with that with the piercing spikes as well, so they can get information to slow anyone who tries to play off the back of that staircase. They can see. 何これダークゼロの後ろ。ジェンバってんか。まだ2人残ってるのか。GKS これクレームやばいんじゃね？大丈夫か？なんとかなる？右が外れたらまだいける。お、いけそう。オキシジェンさせんいけそうだな、でも。いや、きつそうこれ。いやこれは終わった。さあ、先に入ったチームは有利だ。あれさすがにきつい。さあ、D のか、ガソージは。さあ、カオテックマッチチャンス。ミニファイヤー。さあ、オキシジェンこれドロップ、オプティックか。オプティック上の車線気をつけないと結構怖いよ。オキシジェンこれ勝ったんじゃねえか。オキシジェン勝ったんじゃねえかこれどうなんだろう。オプティックが一番中央だけどあそこはグレ投げられてまあ多分そう辛いんだよ多分これが。ああウルト先使っちゃった。剥がせた。しかもオプティック多分挟まれるところだからこれはオキシジェン3発になるな 3発目あるなこれ。上は3チームいるからな。まあクラスターもこれも除外だけど、正直。まあ GKS が多分オプティックに車線通してボコボコすんだよこれ。あ、GKS 移動した。あ、これちょっと分かんなかったけども。挟まれないとこ行ったね。真ん中近かったけども、賢挟まれるの分かって移動した。なかなかできるもんじゃないけどね、正直。大会で。さあ、ガスが臭い。しかしこれは普通に倒す。あとはモルできたね。モルできたね。モルできたからこれオキシジェンが来たからな。どっちだろう。ハボックだ。オプティックだ。通じてきた。さあ、これオプティックはオキシジェンに振られる運命のはずなんだけども、さあ来ました。Wi-Fi ゼロだ。Wi-Fi ゼロ。いや、じゃあ来ると思うけどな。オキシジェンも。あ、来ないんだ。ああ、おお、3発目のチャンピオンか、これは。
Fight still going down there as the 3v3v3. Optics still alive as the 3. Ape Gang still alive as the 3. The difference.
オキシジェンが3発目のチャンピオンだ、これ。え、待って、アペギャング3人おったら熱っ。しかもフルヘイスだ、ほぼ。おっと、3発目のチャンピオン取りたい。これは取りたい。空爆を、あ、一発当たんない。マジかよ。さあ、どうすんのこれ。壁切れたらいく？うわ、これは強え。中入った。相手は俺にしかない。相手は俺にしかない。完璧だ。
into the crosshairs of Oxygen, and that's exactly what they're going to do. The difference, though, might be a digi difference. You can see the smokes go down, and now Oxygen, they start to fall themselves. Vayne is last alive. Can they do it for the squad?
負けた。ランパート勝った。惜しい。1ポイント失った。いてー。まあ、痛くはねえけど。
do just that, and with a composition that's just a little bit different as well. Same as EMEA in the final game, a team that isn't running your standard comp is able to find a victory. We don't get the 3 matches for Oxygen, which is a bit disappointing for them, but they are still going to be the lobby victors in the overall standings, so I don't think they'll mind too much.
No bonus point for Oxygen today, unfortunately, but pretty sure that they'll be happy with the position that they do end up in. It was a very strong performance from them.
ちょっとスモーク耐えたせいで多分見えてなかったんですよね。
Such a smart play to somehow manage to get underneath Ape Gang, which gave them the ability and the vision when Ape Gang had to jump off that they might get those first shots in. And of course, when you're landing off a fight, your gun's going to take a few seconds to come up itself, and you're going to have those first shots. But the difference is the digi difference, right? We talked about it all season. You don't have a digi. When the smokes go down, it causes problems. It makes it so much more difficult in those fights. And that's exactly what we saw. And congratulations to Ape Gang. We mentioned how close it was outside of the top 2 or 3. Ape Gang might have just catapulted their way up the standings from where they were to somewhere a lot more respectable.
Yeah, they really did, and there was a few teams who were probably in the top 5 who were dead, who were sweating a little bit, with other teams able to maybe overtake and leapfrog them, but they'll be probably happy when they see that final result. I'll let the overall standings come into fruition before we start talking about it, but it is going to be a good position for some of these squads. I mean, we have to talk about Oxygen in general, but I'm very impressed with other squads like SSG, for example, who performed excellently today.
Well, speaking of stand-ins, it's time for us to take a little look on how that match did go.
おお、ペガング10キロ奇跡だ。3部隊かな、確か。オキシジェンは1キル。まあ言うて1位は確定。あとはダーク07キル、7ポイントか。
That might have just saved the day for Optic Gaming. 12 points for them, 5 kills alongside the 7.
この後試合ないです。
Elsewhere, you're looking down Dark Zero again, even though we
終わりたいよ。
barely talked about them the entire game. They didn't really seem to be in a position to cause.
さあ今日の動画のタイトルどうしようかこれ。T7 のダークゼロがちょっと落ちちまったから難しいな。難しいな。
native not able to really put enough points to push them into the top 10 in the overalls. And then
わかった。TS 部のインペルハルのあそこを使おう。ぶち切れる。ぶち切れる。
Not for Flat. Flat actually had a fairly good day. I think Flat found themselves in around 11th position, so I think they'll be pretty happy with that, especially considering the internet issues they had during match 4.
Well, the games are done. We'll bring Stella back into it to talk
やっぱ
about
タイトルはね、有名なチームのタイトルね、入れなきゃいけないから。
seeing a little bit of a different ending
そういう決まりがあるから。
in our final game today.
Yeah, I want to point out they didn't move that entire match. They just stayed there, which was great for them. I mean, their landing zone was a great boon for them in that match. And I was it's a little bittersweet because I really wanted Oxygen Esports to get that third win in the series today. But you know what? Kudos to Ape Gang. I mean, they had 10 kills, which is incredible. And I was very surprised that Oxygen only had 1. So great job to Ape Gang and all the teams that participated today.
Also, I do want to publicly apologize to Onset because he was right with the bonus point situation. It's very rare, right?
I will say
that he is right with this one.
I am going to fully hands up and say I am as surprised as you are. Okay, I am just as surprised as you are. Usually you are 100% correct when it comes to this stuff. And this is I will say, more of a worrying moment for me to be correct when it comes to numbers than it is a celebratory one. So,
honestly,
yeah,
that
terrifying.
It's the board game nerd in me reading more than 50% and taking it too literally. That I thought it had to be 4 wins, but alas, we got confirmation from admins. 3 wins would have got a bonus point. It does not, though. We still don't see an NA team picking up bonus points yet.
Yeah, we were so close to that. I really wanted to see it because I really wanted to claim it, but you know, it's all right. There's always next time. But you know, let's go ahead and take a look at the series results so far and take a look at how everyone is standing. Oh, my bad. We're gonna go right into the final circles. So sorry.
たくさん稼いでください。いや、ちょっと今日は難しいですね。TS からやっぱダークゼロがちょっと1位になってくれないと難しい。タイトル的にも難しいですね。オキシジンは知らないだろうな、ほとんどの人。俺は知ってるけど、オキシジンは知らんだろうな、一般の人。オキシジンが1位取りましたタイトルしても絶対に再生数伸びないから。タイトル大事。
Yeah, I think there was a chance that maybe the damage could have been done quick enough by the team that they had to fight against in the end, SSG, but because SSG lost 1 to Dark Zero, it was always going to be just easy pickings from this point for Oxygen. Oxygen almost helped SSG, but did enough to be an easier fight as they came into it. And I think we'll be pretty happy we've been able to pick that one up, especially considering their rotation in match number 4. And then match number 5, I mean, it was a similar rotation for Oxygen, but they weren't able to get as far this time, and they found themselves dipping out a little bit earlier on. But a somewhat similar circle, this time it was closer towards Epicenter, and it was GKS this time, who were in that same position that Oxygen were, where they were just hoping that one of the squads that happened to move first would send it on the other. You try and deal the damage on the team that's crossing to make that fight last, or go a little bit quicker, and then you join the fight.
Yeah, we did see DNO and Elevate just push into a fight trying to get that extra KP here like Onset called out, and they did end up getting it, but of course they did end up getting eliminated in second place as well. But GK did take the win here quite easily. I mean, they just swept in and cleaned up the rest of the rubble.
Yeah, I mean, this is 2 examples of probably the easiest games to win when you get to those final moments, right? We always see crazy end circles. This one's huge. It was a very rough zone for everyone to get into, which you saw 3 teams having so much space to play with. But this end game was probably one of my favorite that we saw today on World's Edge. I think Ape Gang.
TS マジで絡まれたな。絡まれて変な死に方したな、今日。動画、俺が編集してるよ。ゴッド編集。言うてね、このスクリームとか大会系はクソ楽だよ。だってカットしてサムネ適当に作ってっぽいだもん。簡単でーす。スーパーイージー。効率はめっちゃいいね。まあ配信の時間がちょっと長くなるかなぐらい別ゲーできなくて。
Yeah, we heard Church in the halftime say
デジか。デジスで持ったんだね。エイダン19歳なんだ。若っ。海外若い人多いよな。さあ、オキシジェンが78ポイント。まあ、これはもう当然。さあ、ダークゼロと58。SSG が3位。エレベーターも惜しかったのか。52。TSM がなんと6位。さあ、アペギャングが7位まで伸ばした。そしてアルブラがなんか20位にいるんだけど、そんなバカな。フェイズも18位と。そしてスイート12位。TSM が6位いるだけの違和感あるな。違和感。違和感。まあ言うて50位だけどね、6位は。ダークゼロ2位はちゃんと取ってるし、まあダークゼロこのまままだ1位かな、平均順位は。
Yeah, and you talked about Ape Gang. I mean, look, they're in 7th place, right above Complexity, and their kills are nothing to sniff at either. I mean, they both played really well. Ape Gang had a really great game, and I mean, Complexity showed up, especially with one of their teammates kind of being at a disadvantage and having a sub for the first game.
動画編集して寝ろな、ちょっと夕方どうしようかなってしまって。スクリーム多分人いねえんだよな今日。ですね、翌日だし。ちょっと一旦見るわ。登録の見とくわ、一応。多分いないと思うけど。夕方のが、あ、9チームしかね、いないっすね。ないっすね、夕方も。多分夜もないっすね、これ多分。一応見るか。みんな疲れて多分、やんないっすね、これ。夜に至っては12チームか。まあなさそうっすね。多分今日スクリームないっすね。みんな休憩だね。まあ結構毎週こんな感じだからしょうがねえわ。なんでなんか起きたらなんか別のゲームやるか。じゃあ終わりまーす。動画編集してきます。じゃあちょっと夕方ぐらいねまた配信します。じゃあお疲れ様です。